Marvel, Fishing in the Skies. Starting with the Ghost Swordsman Legacy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201. Fortunately, the communication equipment here was not destroyed, otherwise, he and Thanos would have to cross the universe to find Ronan and the others. But then again, Thanos can survive in the universe with his strong body. But what about him? His biggest weakness is also the weakness of most mages. https://www.tvts.net/ that is, his physique is too fragile. His current physique is probably only a little stronger than those ordinary humans. I am afraid that he will have to survive on this planet for the next month, and the supplies have almost been destroyed and turned into cosmic garbage. If nothing unexpected happens, he and Thanos will probably have to survive in the wilderness. It's just that this desolate planet doesn't even have clean water, let alone food. If nothing unexpected happens, he and Thanos will starve for a month, although he won't starve to death. Thinking of the taste of hunger, the haze in Ebony Maw's heart has become heavier. Earth. Thor was still immersed in the power of Kinlawo's sword. Suddenly, a voice filled with helplessness and anger rang out. Damn it, even if you don't pick it up, can you please stop letting this damn hammer shake? My bones are almost broken. Loki held the handle of the hammer tightly in his hand, and his whole body was shaking as if he was struck by lightning. He was able to say this sentence now, relying on his breath. As the voice fell, Loki was ravaged by Thor's hammer. Thor saw the miserable state of his brother, and a trace of embarrassment flashed in his eyes. Mjolnir, stop moving, Thor said seriously. Hearing the words of his master, Thor's hammer was barely calmed down and stopped shaking. I said, can't you take this damn hammer away? After Thor's hammer stopped, Loki said a little weakly, no, I dare not let you go now. You are too good at running away. Thor shook his head decisively and said firmly, hey, two nephews, what special fun are you playing? Loki was about to say something when Kinlawo's voice came over. Kinlawo had come to their side without knowing when, holding the ancient dagger that had been restored to its original appearance. Feeling Kinlawo's breath, Thor's hammer trembled more crazily, and even began to move slowly, trying to get away from Kinlawo. This is because Thor is still here, otherwise, Thor's hammer would have flown away long ago. It doesn't matter if Thor's hammer moves, but Loki is miserable. Don't break. 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 Click. Hearing the crisp sound of bone breaking, Loki's eyes flashed with despair. Then his eyes rolled up. His eyes were full of white, and some white foam came out of his mouth. Thor was a little panicked at this moment, and hurriedly picked up the crazy shaking Thor's hammer. It was also at this moment that he had some understanding of the strangeness of Thor's hammer when he saw Kinlawo. It is probably because Thor's hammer felt the powerful force in Kinlawo's body, so it was like this. This is to remind him to be safe and stay away from Kinlawo. What a good hammer. Kinlawo probably understood what was going on when he saw this. He used the power of the law of heaven and earth to force his smile back. At the same time, he reached out and grabbed towards the void. Nephew, why bother running? Aren't you happy to see your uncle? As soon as the voice fell, Kinlawo's 5 fingers came together, and then Loki appeared in front of everyone. Kinlawo's palm was clasped on his shoulder, and the Loki on the ground who rolled his eyes and foamed at the mouth turned into a bubble at this moment. Damn it, Loki, you bastard lied to me again. Feeling that his feelings were deceived by Loki, Thor was a little angry and raised his hand to give Loki a brother's love hammer with Thor's hammer. But he was stopped by Kinlawo. To be precise, Kinlawo just raised his hand, and Thor's hammer shrank back like a rabbit. Alas, it's not good for brothers to fight and kill each other. We should live in harmony, otherwise it will be difficult for me as an uncle. Kinlawo sighed slightly, looked at Loki and Thor with a serious look and said, asshole, whose uncle are you? Loki seemed to have broken the jaw and roared angrily and choked Kinlawo directly. I am a buddy with Odin, so what is he if not your uncle? Kinlawo said seriously. Chapter 280 Nephew's Meeting Gift. Go to hell, asshole. Don't talk nonsense there. Father. Odin. How could I be a brother to you? Loki was angry. He subconsciously wanted to say father, but he changed it to Odin when he was on his lips. After all, he is no longer a person from Asgard. Naturally, he has to draw a clear relationship. In fact, when Kinlawo said this, not only Loki reacted greatly, Thor's face was also a little ugly. The god King Odin is not only his father, but also his idol. Otherwise, the passive skill of thinking about dad would not be activated every time he encountered difficulties in the original plot. What, you don't believe it? Kinlawo was not annoyed when he saw the two people's appearance, but a smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth. I don't believe you, Loki roared decisively. Although Thor did not speak, it can be seen from his somewhat angry little eyes that he obviously thought Kinlawo was talking nonsense. Look, this is a genuine spiritual memory, Kinlawo said, pointing his finger in the air, and suddenly a picture appeared in front of the brothers Thor and Loki. It was the scene when Odin smiled and claimed to be a few years older. For a moment, Loki and Thor were stunned. Asgard, because he was worried about the earth. Odin was watching everything that happened on the earth through Heimdall's divine eyes. The queen was also beside him. As the spiritual memory appeared, puff! Exclamation mark! All the witch medicine that Odin had just drunk and his mouth sprayed out. The one-eyed man looked at the scene on the earth with incredible eyes. The corner of his mouth twitched wildly. He never thought that Kinlawo, the sixth old man, actually recorded the video. The Queen and Heimdall obviously did not expect this scene to happen. They showed extremely strange expressions on their faces, but soon the expression on Heimdall's face turned into horror. He discovered the little secret of the God King, and he will be punished in the future. Thinking of the bone-chilling cold at that time, Heimdall couldn't help but shudder. He also forced himself to endure some of the questions he wanted to ask. It's enough to experience something like seeking death once. Loki and Thor looked at the vivid picture with sound effects. Their faces were full of disbelief, especially when they saw Odin with a smile on his face. Chapter 202. The clone he displayed was really ugly, and it felt like a thick layer of mosaic. People who have not practiced riding a horse probably can't tell that it is a human figure. Things have come to this point. Loki can only run like this now. Whoosh! However, before he took a step, he suddenly heard a sound of breaking through the air. Then his hands and feet were all tied up, because he was too nervous. Loki didn't react at all and fell to the ground. Loki just wanted to get up with his core strength. As a result, a trembling hammer fell on his chest. In an instant, Loki felt like a mountain was pressing on him, making him unable to move at all. My stupid brother, do you think you can still run? Thor looked at the embarrassed Loki on the ground, with a smug look on his face. Asshole, hurry up, hurry, let me go. Loki grabbed the handle of the hammer tightly and struggled desperately. However, Thor ignored Loki and his eyes fell on Kinlawo again. At this time, the ancient dagger in Kinlawo's hand turned into an ancient lightsaber. Then he slashed with a sword, and the sword light spread out from the tip of the sword, but it did not spread too far. Instead, under Kinlawo's control, it rushed into the space portal with only a gap left. Crack! As if the sound of glass shattering, countless terrifying space cracks appeared near the space gate. Many Chitauri who had just fallen in the sky had not waited to react to what was going on. They fell into the space cracks and didn't know where they went, but with their little power, they were most likely to die on the spot. Gudon Thor felt his throat dry and couldn't help swallowing hard. He thought to himself, is this Kinlawo's true power? Just a slash is so terrifying. Even my father doesn't have such power, right? No wonder my mother said such a thing. On the other side of the space portal, at this time, Ebony Maw's face was extremely pale. He almost risked his life to maintain the space portal just now, but it was still useless. In desperation, he had to cut off his connection with the space portal. Is there a problem on the Earth? Looking at the portal that was almost dissipating, Thanos slowly stood up. His expression was indescribably ugly. This time, Loki's action was not just to bring back an infinite gem. Apart from anything else, the one he put in was enough to make him very uncomfortable. That's right, the power of the cosmic cube is interrupted, and Loki and the Chitauri may have failed. Ebony Maw panted, his expression serious and with cold murderous intent. This murderous intent was of course directed at Loki. Ebony Maw wanted to kill Loki for a long time. Damn, Thanos just said 2 words, and his face suddenly changed wildly. I saw a bright sword light rushing out from the space crack and then spreading. The Chitauri near the space crack and those spaceships were all broken into 2 pieces under this sword light. The sword light was still spreading, and it spread towards Thanos and Ebony Maw at a very fast speed. Thanos was filled with a terrifying aura, and the unique power of the Titans surged in his body. Then he pushed Ebony Maw away, picked up his double-headed sword, and rushed towards the sword light. Swish! The moment the double-headed sword collided with the sword light, an extremely dazzling light burst out, as if there were only the 2 in the world. Ah! Thanos roared, and his power surged again, trying to split the sword light with one sword, but it didn't go as he wished. The double-headed sword made of precious materials was actually being cut by the sword light little by little, and the speed was getting faster and faster. When Thanos found out, it was too late. Buzz, as if it was the wailing of the sword, one head of the double-headed sword was split by the sword light. Then the sword light passed through Thanos' body, leaving a deep scar on his chest, and blood spurted out directly. It looked like a fountain. Lord Thanos! Ebony Maw was stunned. He shouted and rushed over to support Thanos, but was pushed away by Thanos. Haha! Thanos held his knees with both hands, panting heavily, with a look of shock on his face. If he hadn't used the double-headed sword to resist that blow just now, it would not be as simple as leaving such a scar. It is estimated that he has been broken into 2 sections now. Damn, what a sharp power. When did such a terrifying guy appear on Earth? This kind of power is probably close to that of a god. Thanos gritted his teeth and murmured in a low voice, with a tone of surviving a disaster. Chapter 280 Survival in the Wilderness. Nephew is in a good mood. Thanos is in the same mood. Ebony Maw, who witnessed the whole process with his own eyes, can imagine how he felt at this time. He never thought that it was just a small planet. The atrium of the 9 realms under Odin would hide such a terrible power, and it is certain that the owner of that power just now is definitely not the god King Odin. They have dealt with the Asgardians before, not just Loki. In short, Ebony Maw can easily sense the power of Asgard. And in that shocking sword light, there is only the purest sharp breath. That kind of purity makes him feel terrified. If it weren't for the fact that Lord Thanos just bore most of the power, I'm afraid his fate would be no different from those spaceships and Chitauri. Lord Thanos, what should we do now? Seeing that Thanos' expression gradually calmed down, Ebony Maw asked tentatively. Let's leave here first, let go of the Earth for the time being, and go to those gems last. Go get the Soul Gem and the Power Gem first, Thanos said, covering his chest, and turned around and walked towards his throne. The Infinity Gauntlet should be almost ready now. With the power of the gauntlet and 2 Infinity Gems, the owner of that sword light may not be invincible. Even if he collects another Infinity Gem, with the power of 3 gems, he can still fight. Thanos is confident that he can defeat the master of the sword light, but he still needs time to expel the damn sharp power in his body. This kind of injury can no longer be healed by self-healing ability. He can now clearly feel that the sharp power is raging in his body, constantly destroying the vitality in his body. But, Lord Thanos, our current fleet has been destroyed, and I'm afraid we can't leave for a while. After hesitating for a moment, Ebony Maw still said this fact. The corners of Thanos' eyes twitched. This news is really a bit worse. However, Thanos still resisted the urge to explode and said calmly, find a way to contact Ronan and the others. The situation is special now, and the power should not be dispersed anymore. After that, Thanos slowly closed his eyes, and the Titan power continued to surround the wound, expelling the sharp breath in his body. Alas, Ebony Maw sighed lightly and walked towards the communication location with some disappointment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203. If possible, he really hopes to live an ordinary life, but that is easier said than done. Unless he can find a backer, A backer who can protect him. Thinking of this, Hawkeye couldn't help but look at Kinluo. The man in front of him is the most stable backer. He has witnessed countless times that shield is powerless against Kinluo. What? Want to go down? Kinluo felt Hawkeye's gaze and turned back with some doubts. https://w.v''s.net/I. Okay, I'll just send you to the west. Before Hawkeye finished speaking, Kinluo grabbed his shoulders and threw him down. You know, this is the top floor of the building, which is hundreds of meters high. Even Hawkeye in his prime would not dare to jump down like this without the help of auxiliary equipment. What's more, he is seriously injured now, and he is definitely 120% dead. Kinluo, this guy, if you want him to die, can't you just do it? Why go to this? Killing is not enough. Bowing to the ground is too much. Resisting the urge to scream, Hawkeye closed his eyes silently. Let him die. It's just a matter of time anyway. He lives like a waste. Maybe death is a relief. Captain, catch your teammates. But at this moment, Kinluo's voice sounded in Hawkeye's ears, and then Hawkeye felt a soft force catching him. When he felt that he stopped falling and opened his eyes again, he found the captain and Natasha with wounds on their faces standing in front of him. Barton, are you okay? Natasha leaned over, looked at Hawkeye with concern and asked. It's okay, but I can't fight side by side with you anymore, Hawkeye said as his face gradually turned pale. The effect of the drug has begun to wear off, and the waves of severe pain in his body made him want to faint at this moment. Natasha's face changed wildly. She raised her head suddenly and looked at Kinluo on the roof. There was a chill in her eyes. Is it him? The captain's brows also frowned slightly. He had a good impression of Hawkeye. If Hawkeye was really disabled by Kinluo, he felt a little uncomfortable. Don't think too much. It's not him. I have to thank him for saving me, otherwise, I would not be a disabled person, but a dead person. Hawkeye's voice became weaker and weaker. As the last sentence fell, he fell into a coma completely. You go and settle him first. Leave this to me first. The captain looked at the newly fallen Chitauri in the sky and said seriously. Okay, Captain, don't force yourself. If it doesn't work, you can ask Kinluo's group for help. They are still very strong. Natasha left this sentence and carefully hugged Barton and ran towards the hidden base of S.H.I.E.L.D. Kinluo glanced at the situation below, shook his head, and reached out to grab the cosmic cube. Slow. Don't. The unconscious Dr. Selvig seemed to feel something and suddenly woke up and said, don't touch it with your hands. The energy has begun to be released now. If it is instigated, not only you, but the entire New York will be destroyed. Kinluo ignored Dr. Selvig's sighs. The wave force in his hand surrounded him and instantly penetrated the energy barrier emitted by the cosmic cube. It must be said that the energy impact of the Infinity Stone is quite powerful. As Kinluo's palm continued to go deeper, he actually felt like he was stuck in a quagmire. At the same time, the space portal in the sky became unstable. Countless Chitauri who had not yet fallen were all affected by the space portal at this moment and turned into a twist on the spot. It's over, it's over, it's over now. Looking at the terrifying power emanating from the sky, Dr. Selvig's face suddenly turned ashen, and then his eyes rolled and he fell into a coma again. Loki, who was fighting with Thor and Spider-Man, also saw the abnormality of the space portal at this time. He was startled and didn't care about anything else. He ran towards the location of the cosmic cube. If there was any problem with the cosmic cube, there would be no place for him. The Chitauri were his last resort. Loki was very fast. It took him only a few seconds to reach the top of the building, and then he saw the existence that made him hate him. Kinluo. Loki was even a little afraid of Kinluo now. He found that even if Kinluo was not there, some traces left behind tortured him to death. Things that were originally going smoothly all suffered a Waterloo. Now that he saw the real loner, it would be strange if he didn't panic, especially watching Kinluo's palm constantly approaching the cosmic cube. Damn it, let go of your dirty hands. Loki raised the mind gem scepter in his hand without saying a word and shot an energy beam at Kinluo. However, at the moment when the energy beam was about to leave his hand, a hammer accurately blocked the front of the beam. Boom. The mighty force exploded, and Loki was blown away without checking. He almost fell freely. Fortunately, Loki reacted quickly and grabbed the guardrail in time, so he didn't fall. The hammer quickly flew back and fell into Thor's hands, at least several times faster than usual. The emotion of fear continued to emanate from the hammer. Spider-Man also rushed over from the side at this time, and his eyes lit up when he saw Kinluo. "I can't cure you, break it for me." Kinluo ignored the farce next to him. Feeling that the obstruction of the space gem was getting stronger and stronger, Kinluo's eyes widened. Directly increased the power of fluctuations. Bang! With a muffled sound, the blue space force spread like ripples in the air. The light column disappeared and gradually turned into a thin line and finally disappeared in the air. The space portal in the sky also began to twist and shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 278 Send some gifts and severely injure Thanos. Kinluo looked at the shrinking space portal in the sky. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. "I'm here just like that. I'm leaving now. How can I not give you something?" As soon as the words fell, Kinluo flipped his hand and the ancient dagger appeared in his hand. Even though Kinluo has restrained most of the buff bonus now, but the moment the ancient dagger fell into his hand, Kinluo's aura suddenly changed. The surrounding buildings could not withstand the aura emanating from Kinluo, and the walls began to shatter. Spider-Man was not surprised to see this. He just quietly pulled away a little, fearing that he would be accidentally injured by Kinluo's aura. However, Thor and Loki were not as calm as Spider-Man. They looked at Kinluo in disbelief. With disbelief in their eyes, Thor had seen Kinluo's full-strength attack. But the aura Kinluo burst out at that time was far less terrifying than it is now. It is no exaggeration to say that there is a world of difference. hts://w.tvts.net/ If Kinluo had burst out this terrifying aura at the beginning, I'm afraid Thor would not even have the mind to compare. As for Loki, at this moment, a stream of crystal liquid slowly flowed out of his nose, and he looked at Kinluo with a look of anxiety. His body trembled involuntarily. It was hard to imagine that he would actually think of threatening such a terrifying guy. With his heart beating wildly, Loki had only one thought at this moment. Run, run. While there are still people paying attention to him, run quickly, otherwise, it will be too late. Loki took a deep breath and the phantom clone magic began to work. Perhaps affected by Kinluo's breath, Loki's clone magic failed to work after using it several times. Loki was so anxious that he almost caught fire. Fortunately, on the 6th time, it was finally successful. Chapter 204 After all, swallowing a big mushroom is a fantasy for her. If she is not destroyed, it is too exaggerated to swallow her. It is even more unacceptable than Thor's hammer appearing in front of her. Don't forget, she is the daughter of God. The planet devourer is best at swallowing. He usually eats planets as snacks. It's not easy for his daughter to swallow a big mushroom. Kinluo patted May Parker on the shoulder and smiled to comfort him. Okay then. May Parker nodded. Her expression was still a little solemn. She believed in Kinluo and what Kinluo said, but letting such a beautiful girl eat a big mushroom, no matter how you think about it, it's a little unreliable. Seeing this, Kinluo simply gave May Parker a reassurance pill. With a thought, a sword energy suddenly surged out and merged directly into May Parker's palm. Leave you a layer of insurance. If it doesn't work, you can activate the sword seal. Don't worry, it's just a big mushroom. It can't turn the world upside down. Kinluo used wave perception to transmit a voice to May Parker. However, when Gian saw this scene, her eyes almost turned red. The breath emanating from the sword seal tempted her all the time, but in order not to be annoying, Gian still resisted and did not ask Kinluo for the sword seal. Okay. May Park nodded heavily, clenching the sword seal in his fist, as if he was afraid that it would disappear. He felt heavy in his heart. Kinluo was about to go to hell. Once the big mushroom exploded, the damage caused would definitely not be a little bit. At that time, not many people would live innocently. You know, the aliens haven't done anything until now. Now, I'll deal with these Chitauri leaders first, and then I'll deal with the space gate. As for the rest of the Chitauri, I'll leave it to you, Kinluo said, looking at the Chitauri leader who was hiding, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Then his figure flashed. He disappeared on the spot. The Chitauri leader felt Kinluo's cold eyes like the god of death in an instant. His heart was immediately filled with fear. "I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die." The leader of the Chitauri chose to escape at the first moment and ran directly to the building. Now the space portal is a one-way transmission, and he must operate a wave to change the portal to reverse transmission. Only in this way can he have a chance to escape, otherwise he may only have a dead end. It's a pity that ideals are full and reality is very skinny. Even if the leader of the Chitauri chose to escape at the first moment, his speed was not as fast as the old lady selling popsicles in front of Kinluo. "Go with peace of mind. Your people will soon follow in your footsteps." The moment Kinluo's voice rang in the ears of the leader of the Chitauri, before he could react, he lost consciousness. Kinluo threw the head of the Chitauri on the ground, turned around and rushed into the building. At that moment just now, except for Ancient One, no one saw how Kinluo did it. It was just seen that Kinluo walked by the Chitauri, and then his head appeared in Kinluo's hands. Kinluo's footsteps did not stop and rushed directly into the building, came to the instrument that released the energy wave of the cosmic cube. Feeling the power in the infinite gems, Kinluo couldn't help but smack his lips. "Why do I feel that it is similar to the power in the cosmic surfboard?" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Da-da-da. Kinluo's appearance scared the Chitauri and security personnel guarding this side, but they immediately started to attack. However, their attacks couldn't even touch Kinluo's hair, and they were all wiped out by the protective sword energy. Trouble. Kinluo's eyes opened instantly, and then the wave power spread out. All the humans around him fell unconscious, and those Chitauri, all turned into headless corpses. However, at this moment, a person Kinluo was not surprised by rushed towards him. The person who came was Hawkeye, who had just woken up not long ago. The arrows in his hand shot continuously, accurately hitting his eyebrows and heart. The result was still useless. Now unless there are some extremely special powers, otherwise, it is difficult to find a power on Earth that can break through Kinluo's protective sword energy. Kinluo ignored Hawkeye's attack and came to him, stretched out his hand and pinched his neck. Suddenly, he noticed something wrong. The wave perception spread out and felt Hawkeye's whole body. His face suddenly showed a bit of surprise and emotion. Hawkeye was useless. I don't know how the bones in his body were forcibly connected. There were also some internal injuries, and many injuries were not treated at all. Directly used drugs to restore his ability to move in a short time and launch an attack. Fortunately, Hawkeye was strong and could still stand up. If it were someone else, I'm afraid that even with the support of drugs, he wouldn't be able to stand up. But because of this, Hawkeye's injuries worsened again. He shouldn't die, but in the future, let alone fighting, even some strenuous exercise, I'm afraid Hawkeye will have no chance. Unless there are some special medicines or something, maybe they can help him recover some combat effectiveness. Of course, don't even think about the Western version of super soldier sugar water like the Abomination. It won't be very effective. Forget it. Since you helped me get the buff, I'll save your life. Just be an ordinary person in the future. Kinluo shook his head and tapped Hawkeye's eyebrows. Instantly, two energies, one blue and one red, burst out from Hawkeye's body. The blue one is naturally the power of the Mind Stone, and the red one is the diversion of blood and chi. Of course, there is not too much blood and chi, but it can only ensure that Hawkeye will not die. It is far from enough to heal the injuries in his body. After all, Hawkeye is also a member of SHIELD, and Kinluo doesn't want to save him and then let him go against him with guilt. As the two forces go in and out, Hawkeye's eyes gradually regain clarity, because the effect of the drug has not passed, so he can't feel the pain caused by the injuries in his body now. But he saw everything that happened, and naturally knew how serious his injuries were. A strong unwillingness flashed in his eyes. But when his eyes fell on Kinluo in front of him, Hawkeye's expression was filled with a complicated expression. Gratitude, confusion, surprise, and other emotions kept flashing in his eyes. He really didn't expect Kinluo to help him, otherwise, he would probably have no way out. Thank you. All of Hawkeye's emotions finally turned into these two words. Chapter 277 Cosmic Cube. Take it. No need to say more about gratitude. Just be an ordinary person in the future. You have worked so hard in S.H.I.E.L.D. for so long, so retirement should not be a problem. Kinlawo waved his hand and said. Hawkeye smiled bitterly when he heard it. Can he really retire? Will S.H.I.E.L.D. keep such a useless person like him? More importantly, this useless person also has many internal secrets. The more he thought about it, the more bitter Hawkeye's face became, and he felt that the future was dark. At the same time, he felt an inexplicable sense of relaxation in his heart. For so many years, he had forgotten how long he had not had a good rest. Chapter 205. There was no pretense in his demeanor or expression, it was all sincere. Kinlawo was really touched by Maypark's performance. Such a broad mind, not just physically, but also spiritually. Looking at Tony winking at him and constantly giving him a thumbs up, Kinlawo was speechless. Why is this guy so annoying sometimes? Sister Mai, I really. Alas, Kinlawo ignored Tony, looking at the smiling Maypark with a slightly complicated expression. Maypark's behavior made him feel guilty. Finally, Kinlawo sighed. Forget it. I won't take advantage of you and still act cute. Just take care of her. If there is any danger, she can protect you. And don't call her sister. She is probably thousands of years old. It's not appropriate to call her sister. You should call her by her name. Then her name is, my name is Ganada. Sister Mai, please take care of me in the future. Don't listen to Kinlawo's nonsense. According to the time on Earth, I am only more than 700 years old. I am younger than Sister Guyi. Before Maypark finished speaking, Ganada jumped in front of Maypark as if she was familiar with her, and held her hand intimately. As soon as these words came out, in addition to Maypark and Ganada, Kinlawo Tony even looked a little unnatural. Why is the name of Sister Guyi so strange? Chapter 275 Calling this a child? Really not picky. Ganada pulled Maypark. The two chatted intimately about some messy things. They looked like good sisters who hadn't seen each other for many years. Women always have so many topics to talk about, Kinlawo said with emotion as he looked at the familiar scene in front of him. When Maypark, Pepper and Roxanne first met, they also became close friends in a very short time. What are you talking about? Do you know how much of my business was delayed because of May? Tony looked at Kinlawo with resentment, his tone like that of an old woman. TSK, only yours was delayed? Kinlawo rolled his eyes, thinking of the time when Maypark and Pepper had just met and had fun. He was also a victim. It's just that relatively speaking, Maypark's physical strength is much better than Pepper's. Bang! However, just when Tony wanted to complain, he suddenly felt a huge force coming, and then the whole person flew backwards. Fortunately, Jarvis reacted very quickly, and immediately opened the protective shield when he noticed the danger. Otherwise, Tony would probably become a meat sandwich in a battle suit. Ha! Hulk, you've gotten stronger again. But why do you have to eat something when you come out? Is your taste so unique? Kinlawo couldn't help but laugh when he saw the huge figure that knocked Tony away. Hey, friend. Hulk smiled and greeted Kinlawo. Asshole. You big green guy. Don't you have eyes? At this time, Tony rushed out of the ruins in a rage and shouted at Hulk angrily. Little guy, I didn't see it. Sorry. Hulk also grinned at Tony. Asshole. I think you want to taste the arc pulse cannon. Tony's forehead veins bulged, raised his hand and aimed at Hulk, and soon a blue electric current emerged from his palm. Seeing this, Hulk's smile was restrained, and the muscles all over his body began to bulge, which was obviously a sign of anger. Oh, okay, Tony, why are you fighting with a naughty kid? You can't beat him. Kinlawo flashed in front of the two and said with a helpless smile on his face. Seeing Kinlawo, Hulk pursed his lips, and the bulging muscles on his body relaxed at this moment. You call this a child? Tony pointed at the Hulk, and his face under the mask was full of black question marks. Kinlawo shrugged his shoulders. How long has Hulk been born? If he is not a child, what is it? Physical maturity does not mean that the brain is mature. This seems to be the case. Tony looked at Hulk's silly face, and nodded involuntarily to agree with Kinlawo's words. Wait, explain clearly. What do you mean I can't beat him? It's not like I haven't studied this big guy. With my current strength, it may be a bit troublesome, but the person who wins in the end will definitely be me. Tony suddenly remembered Kinlowo's last sentence, and immediately asked dissatisfiedly. Although the nano armor is not mature yet, and Loki has taught him a lesson again, but Tony still had pride in his heart. Through the simulation calculations of Jarvis and various data, the strength of Hulk and Abomination was calculated clearly. With his current strength, he can definitely fight Hulk and win the final victory. Don't think too much, the data is not immutable. Hulk has special properties. As long as you can't kill him with one blow, the angrier he is, the stronger his strength will be, and there is no upper limit. Kinlowo patted Tony on the shoulder and said seriously. Tony was a little surprised at this time. He knew too well what it meant to have no upper limit to strength. If that was the case, when this big guy was angry to a certain extent, wouldn't it be easy to destroy the universe? I didn't expect that a big guy who looked like a fool would have such potential. If anyone else told Tony about this, he wouldn't believe it at all, and would definitely think that the other party was talking nonsense. But when this kind of thing came from Kinlowo's mouth, it was different. Guyi was also looking at Hulk curiously at this time. His eyes closed slightly, and felt the power of Hulk. Then a meaningful smile appeared on her face. She also saw the potential of Hulk, but the fact was not as exaggerated as Kinlowo said. Even if Hulk has mastered the power to destroy the universe, but his shortcomings are too obvious, which determines his growth limit. Unless he can make up for his own shortcomings, Hulk is not to be feared. Okay, I won't talk nonsense with you. I'll solve the thing above first, and then I have to go to hell to work. Really, it's a hard life. Kinlowo hammered his shoulders and looked at the space door in the sky, with a gleam of light in his eyes. Leaving again, because of old Carter's matter? Tony frowned and his expression became solemn. Of course, they are charging in hell now, and the danger is much greater than yours. Then don't talk nonsense here. Hurry up. You don't need to take action here. We can handle it. Tony's mask fell when he heard the words, and the whole person seemed to be injected with chicken blood, and he was completely different from the way he hid behind Kinlowo just now. Don't worry, I know what's going on. Kinlowo turned to look at Ancient One and said, Master Ancient One, please wait for me here for a while, and then we'll go to hell to play. No problem. If you need help, I can help you deal with the problem of the space portal. Ancient One smiled slightly. Okay, don't bother with it, I can handle it. Kinlowo walked towards the two girls. Maypark. When he came to the two girls, seeing them talking and laughing, Kinlowo couldn't help but smile. You two, don't talk for now, I have something to ask of you. hts://w.tvts.et/ What's wrong, Kin? You can leave it to us here, and you can focus on your work. Maypark said, holding Ganata's hand. That's not the case. The people in S.H.I.E.L.D. are likely to cause trouble. Kinlowo waved his hand, then looked at Ganata and asked, can you eat that big mushroom? Big mushroom? Hearing this word, Mayparker's face changed slightly, and her heart sank at the same time. Other things are fine, but what can she use to resist the big mushroom? It can't be a block of iron, right? Big mushroom? No problem. I just want to try it. Leave it to me. Ganata's eyes lit up slightly. She has been coveting the big mushroom for a long time. Now that she has the opportunity to taste it, she naturally can't miss it. Kinlowo looked at Ganata's expectant look, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Good guy, worthy of being the daughter of the Star Eater. She is really not picky about food. Chapter 276. Leave the insurance. Hawkeye's useless kin. Are you serious? Mayparker heard the conversation between the two and couldn't help asking. Chapter 206. Old Carter took a deep breath, then opened his mouth, and a ball of dark flames gushed out, forcing the approaching angry Demon King back again. However, at this moment, a huge figure suddenly fell from the sky. There was still a raging flame on his body. Old Carter quickly turned over and dodged, and the other Demon Kings were also forced back at this moment. The huge body was none other than the gluttonous Demon King whose stomach was emptied. Originally, the gluttonous Demon King wanted to use his devouring ability to suck out the hellfire on the Ghost Rider. Although this would make him very uncomfortable, It would definitely be able to limit Johnny's power in a short time and defeat him, but he never expected that as soon as he opened his mouth, several meteorites fell down. He was directly suppressed in front of Johnny, faced with such a good opportunity. How could Johnny let it go? A direct judgment I fell on the gluttonous Demon King. Normally, the gluttonous Demon King would not be directly oaked by a judgment eye, but his mind was too unstable. He was afraid of the Ghost Rider, and the streamer Star Blade gave Johnny a bonus. He shot directly into the soul and sent the gluttony Demon King to death. The greedy Demon King and the arrogant Demon King Lucifer were not idle either. They took advantage of Johnny's spell and attacked desperately, trying to interrupt Johnny's spell. But the Ghost Rider was really not afraid of death. Johnny fought hard and sent away the weakest gluttony Demon King with serious injuries. Damn it! How dare you! How dare you! Lucifer, with a dark mark on his face, was really going crazy. At this time, the consecutive fall of two Demon Kings made him feel fear in his heart. It was this feeling that the proud and arrogant Demon King could not accept. Why should I not dare? The next one is you. Johnny gritted his teeth and chopped Lucifer with all his strength, enduring the damage just caused by the Demon King. Seeing Johnny's bravery, Old Carter was full of relief. He also became ruthless and rushed straight towards the jealous Demon King. In an instant, Old Carter was enveloped by the dark flames, and the whole person seemed to have turned into a giant pillar composed of dark flames. At that time, the jealous Demon King was scared and turned around to escape. Seeing this, the angry Demon King and the lazy Demon King came forward to rescue him. Who would have thought that Old Carter was just faking a move? At the moment when the angry Demon King and the lazy Demon King made a move, the giant pillar shattered like a flower in the mirror and a moon in the water, and a black light like a needle tip, but it sank into the head of the lazy Demon King along the broken giant pillar of fire. Ah! The lazy Demon King screamed miserably, and the dark flames that were almost black came out of his body. The floating clouds around him surrounded him, as if trying to drive away the dark flames, but it was useless. In the painful wailing, the lazy Demon King followed the footsteps of the gluttonous Demon King. Chapter 274 Broad-minded, Sister Ancient One. Wow, it's so lively. Venom can actually play like this. Won't Spider-Man have a mount in the future? Damn, I don't even have one. Kinluo walked out of the portal and looked at the people fighting fiercely in the sky, especially Venom, who transformed into the Leviathan monster battleship. Oh my god, Kinluo felt a little jealous. I didn't expect Venom to be so handsome. Scam, you still know how to come back. Boom, boom. A familiar voice sounded behind Kinluo, followed by two explosions. Hey, Tony, did you eat? It's so lovely here. Kinluo turned around and looked at Tony, who had just removed the protective shield, smiling and waving his hand. Stop talking nonsense, you. Tony was about to say something when he saw the two women behind Kinluo, and the words on his lips were swallowed back instantly. Of course, he was looking at Ganada. As for Ancient One, Tony had seen it a long time ago, so naturally he wouldn't have any weird ideas. Are you crazy? Miss Maya's up there. You are too blatant. Are you afraid that others will not know? I am doing it secretly. Tony came over and pulled Kinluo's arm, and said with a look of disappointment and jealousy, "What are you thinking? Am I that kind of person?" Kinluo rolled his eyes and asked. However, what he got was Tony's affirmative nod. Get out. Kinluo rolled his eyes again speechlessly, pushed Tony aside directly, and then said to May Parker in the sky, "Sister Mai, I'm back." May Parker, who was in the midst of a fierce battle, heard this familiar shout and immediately lowered his head, and then saw Kinluo, who was smiling and greeting. May Parker smiled immediately, turned around and killed several Chitauri behind him with a missed kick, and then stepped on the moon step and landed directly beside Kinluo. However, it was this shout that attracted the attention of many Chitauri, including their leader. For a time, dozens of Chitauri took their weapons and fired directly at Kinluo. Maypark and Tony both stood behind Kinluo with a clear conscience, and at the same time, they showed a gloating smile on their faces. These aliens are going to be unlucky. Guyi pulled Ganada back a few steps. Fearing that he would be splashed with blood, Ganada frowned and looked at the Chitauri with a slightly curious look. The main thing was to study whether it was delicious or not, and how to eat it better. As for whether it could be eaten, that was not within the scope of consideration. Swish! The weapons of the Chitauri flew through the air and fell around Kinluo. Before they landed, they were directly wiped out by the protective sword energy. It was like a mud cow entering the sea, without even a splash of water. Really? Can you have some eyesight? We are chatting here, and there are people fighting with you over there. Kinluo muttered and waved his hand. The 10,000 swords technique was activated, and the surrounding Chitauri were directly wiped out. The bodies of the Chitauri fell from the sky, and on average, each body had 10 uniform wounds. It is definitely the gospel of the underworld obsessive-compulsive disorder. Even some of the Chitauri on the captain's side were eliminated, which greatly reduced their pressure. Natasha, who had more damage on her body, breathed a sigh of relief. She was really too tired. Relatively speaking, the leader of the Chitauri was not calm. He looked at Kinluo with an incredible face. It was hard to imagine that someone could destroy thousands of his people with a wave of his hand. I am afraid that even the 5 generals of the Black Obsidian could not do it! Only that Lord Thanos could do this. Could it be that the human man in front of him was comparable to Lord Thanos? Thinking of this, the leader of the Chitauri broke out in a cold sweat. If this is the case, it is not as simple as trouble. They must be wiped out this time. Kin, how is your side? Is it solved? May Parker looked at Kinluo and asked with concern. It can be regarded as solved, but there is still a small tail left, Kinluo said and glanced at Ganada behind him. Tony and May Parker's eyes were all focused on Ganada at this time. Who is this beauty? May Park asked curiously. One of the 5 great gods, the daughter of the devourer of planets, is here on vacation on Earth. Kinluo shrugged and introduced. OMG! To Tony and May Park exclaimed almost at the same time. Kinluo had already told them about the 5 great gods. Naturally, they knew the importance of the daughter of a god. How could this be? Could it be? May Park came back to his senses, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes when he looked at Ganada. Women are always sensitive, especially women who practice observation and hearing, even more so. From the way Ganati glanced at Kinluo from time to time, May Park realized something. It's almost the same as you thought. There are always some troubles. I don't have the mind to take care of these now. Johnny and his father are still suffering in hell. I have to go and solve the problem there first. Kinluo admitted it directly and generously. The more you cover up this kind of thing, the worse it will be. It's better to say it directly. You go and do your work first. I will help take care of this, sister. Don't have any other ideas. From the day I followed you, I knew that you were destined not to be mine alone. hts://www.vts.net/Maypark showed a gentle smile on his face and skillfully helped Kinluo tidy up the corners of his clothes. Chapter 207. The magic trap plus the special weapons of the Chitauri. The combination of the two has produced a very wonderful change, and the power has increased exponentially. If it weren't for the help of Spider-Man, Thor's mindless and reckless character might have really fallen into Loki's hands. This damn bastard. Wait, see how I deal with him when I find him. Thor, who was covered in dirt, wiped his face fiercely and said angrily, "Be careful, get out of the way." The little spider on the swing noticed the danger and kicked Thor out directly in the air. Boom. At the moment Thor was kicked away, a violent explosion occurred directly at the place where he was just now. A light blue light flashed, and there was no rubble or steel bars flying out. Those things were almost turned into ashes by the special power at the moment of the explosion. Thanks, little Spider-Man, right? Thanks to you. Where is that bastard now? Thor looked at the place where the explosion just happened with lingering fear, and looked at Spider-Man and asked, "I'm not sure. His breath seems to be hidden by something. I can't sense it now." Spider-Man frowned and said, "He just tried to use his observation hockey to find Loki's trace, but Loki's figure seemed to have evaporated from the face of the earth. Even his observation hockey couldn't find his trace." hts://www.vts.net/It's okay. That guy is the best at hiding. Let's go directly to the cosmic cube. We're not afraid that he won't show up. Thor patted Spider-Man's shoulder and pointed at the blue beam of light in the sky. Spider-Man also thought that what Thor said made sense, so the two of them rushed upstairs again. At this time, Loki, who was using the power of the cosmic cube to forcibly hide himself in another space, showed an evil smile on his face. In hell, the scenery was already dilapidated. It looked even more unbearable at this time. It was a compliment to describe it as poor mountains and bad waters. The subordinates of the 6 demon kings had been killed by Old Carter and Johnny. The most notable thing was the dense red meteorites on the ground. Those meteorites almost filled up the area. The scene could be described as spectacular. However, destroying those demons and evil spirits also caused great consumption to Old Carter and Johnny. They stood back to back. The dark purple flames on their bodies and the red hellfire were constantly in contact, but they presented a state of not interfering with each other. Old Carter couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart. He still overestimated himself, and underestimated the demons and evil spirits in hell. Just destroying these bastards consumed nearly 70% of his strength. This was with the help of the divine weapon meteorite. Otherwise he would probably have difficulty maintaining the status of the Ghost Rider now. Johnny's condition was better than Old Carter's, but not much better. He consumed nearly 60% of his strength. In fact, what Old Carter didn't know was that since Ancient One closed hell and beat up a wave of the 7 demon kings of hell, Mephisto began to pay attention to the power in hell. So before he went out, he used the power of hell to help all those bastards grow stronger. His power rose to a higher level. It was nothing for one demon to rise to a higher level, but the impact of so many demons and evil spirits rising to a higher level collectively was absolutely huge. Mephisto was able to do this entirely by relying on the power accumulated by hell for countless years. With just his own words, there was really no way. Papa. The arrogant demon king Lucifer clapped his hands and walked out of the void, looking at Old Carter and Johnny with a hideous face, and the smile on his face was indescribably sinister. Wonderful, wonderful, really wonderful. I just don't know how much power you have left now, Old Carter. You probably can't stand up now, right? It's enough to kill you. Old Carter growled, and suddenly raised the almost deformed hell soul-devouring cannon. Boom! A column of dark flames blasted out and rushed straight towards Lucifer. At this time, Lucifer really didn't expect that Old Carter in such a state could still attack, but when he appeared, he was ready to dodge. 6 pairs of wings, 3 of which were torn by Ancient One, suddenly spread out from behind Lucifer. His speed also soared at this moment, and he narrowly avoided Old Carter's shot with his extreme speed. But Johnny's blade had been waiting for him on the route Lucifer was dodging. With a sound that was almost like barbecue being burned on an iron plate, a long burn mark was left on Lucifer's face by the flowing star meteor knife, almost throughout his handsome face. Chapter 273 The 6th Disabled Group. Destroy the Demon King again. The fire attribute of the flowing star meteor knife itself, coupled with the blessing of the hellfire, makes the fire attribute of this knife now very strong. The damage of fire to demons can be said to be second only to the power of light and lightning. Therefore, even Lucifer, who is almost the first among the 6 demon kings, can hardly resist such strong fire damage. He couldn't help but let out a shrill scream. The other demon kings rushed out of the void after hearing Lucifer's screams. Seeing Lucifer's face covered with black smoke and howling in pain, no one had any mockery in their eyes, but only a solemn look. Just like Old Carter thought he had underestimated hell, they also underestimated Old Carter and the new Ghost Rider. Johnny took back the streamer star meteor knife, with a look of regret on his face. He had miscalculated just now, and originally wanted to behead Lucifer directly. As a result, Lucifer's speed was too fast, resulting in a deviation when throwing the streamer star meteor knife. This only cut Lucifer's face. Damn it, how can they be so strong? These 2 guys are completely beyond the power of the Ghost Rider. The gluttonous demon subconsciously touched his stomach, but it turned out that he went straight through the middle of his stomach, making his already bad mood even worse. The 6 of them do not include the Enchantress Demon King who has already died. Now they are the disabled 6. It is good enough to be able to exert 80% of their original strength. Most of them can only exert 70% of their peak strength. Originally, they thought that they could use those millions of evil ghosts to kill these 2 damned evil knights. At the very least, they could make them lose their ability to resist. Then they would rush forward and subdue them directly and wait for Lord Mephisto to come back and deal with them. As a result, not only did they not lose their fighting power, but they also injured Lucifer with the force of thunder. What should we do? The relatively weak gluttonous Demon King had the mentality of retreating at this time. Damn it, I'm going to kill you. Kill you all. Lucifer was almost losing his mind due to the impact of rage. As the arrogant Demon King and the face of hell, he cared most about his handsome face. Now that he was directly disfigured by Johnny, how could he bear it? The black wings shook, and all the Demon Kings around were repelled several steps by Lucifer's power. Then, Lucifer seemed to turn into a black meteor, holding a sharp blade and rushing towards Johnny. Lucifer made a move. The rest of the evil kings had no choice but to take action. The current situation was already bad enough. If they were defeated one by one, there would be no point in playing. The greedy Demon King and the gluttony Demon King followed Lucifer. They were the weakest, so they decided to hold on to Lucifer's thighs to deal with the young Ghost Rider. The other half, the Wrath Demon King, the Laziness Demon King and the Envy Demon King rushed towards Old Carter, except for the Wrath Demon King who was slightly stronger. The remaining two were about the same in strength. Kill! Old Carter roared, raised his hand and fired a hellfire cannon, and then the hellfire wrapped around the giant axe and chopped fiercely at the Wrath Demon King who was using his lower body as a weapon. Seeing the location where the axe fell, the Wrath Demon King felt a chill in his heart and quickly pulled away. He barely dodged Old Carter's axe, and the hellfire cannon was also resolved by the Laziness Demon King's cloud bed. At this time, the Envy Demon King's fingers turned into ropes and entangled with Old Carter, almost in the blink of an eye. He was wrapped up like a dumpling. Faced with such a scene, Old Carter was not panicked at all, and the dark flames around him suddenly rose up, and soon the surging dark flames burned along the ropes. Feeling the special power of the dark flames, the Envy Demon King quickly cut off several of his fingers, fearing that they would be contaminated. The rope-like fingers on the ground began to twist and deform, and finally turned into flying ash. Chapter 208. Under the cover of everyone, Spider-Man broke into the room through the window and saw Thor, the god of thunder, who was following Loki's scent. Loki's invisibility magic had been used on him countless times, although he still had no way to crack it, but due to his understanding of himself and some special skills, so it was not difficult for Thor to track Loki. Thor didn't know Spider-Man, but he had seen Spider-Man standing next to May Parker, so he nodded to him and continued to track Loki's location. However, at this moment, a group of security guards rushed out. The guns in their hands were directly aimed at Thor and Spider-Man. However, before they could open fire, Thor smashed the ground with a hammer. Sizzle! Countless lightning burst out, instantly killing all the security guards. Cool! Spider-Man exclaimed, and then jumped to Thor's side. Looking at the security guards who fell to the ground and twitched, Thor looked at him with admiration and contempt. You are Thor, right? I heard Brother Kin and Aunt Mai mention you. Did the lightning just now come from your hammer? Thor was confused by Spider-Man's familiar way of speaking, but he nodded subconsciously. Brother Kin said that you can't release the power of Thor now that you don't have a hammer. But aren't you Thor? Why do you need Thor's hammer to exert your power? If your hammer is taken away, will you have no power? Spider-Man looked at Thor like a curious baby. He didn't notice the blue vein that Thor was throbbing wildly at this time. Good guy. They say that you don't hit people in the face, and don't expose people's shortcomings when scolding them. Spider-Man's words really rubbed Thor's face on the ground. The experience on Earth also made Thor begin to realize his own problems. He also wanted to get rid of Thor's hammer to release his own power. He tried countless times, but none of them succeeded. After all, some habits are difficult to change once they are formed. In the original plot, if Hela hadn't crushed the Meowth hammer, it's probably not so easy for Thor to get rid of his hammer addiction just by thinking about his father. Because Spider-Man is from Kinlawo's side, Thor resisted the urge to burst out and squeezed out a smile. Boy, not everyone can hold Thor's hammer. Really? Then can I try it? Spider-Man looked at Thor with stars in his eyes and asked with a little desire. Norse mythology is also a book that Spider-Man has read. He has imagined countless times that he can own the weapons of the powerful gods in it. Now the gods are in front of him, and the weapons are at his fingertips. If he doesn't try it, Spider-Man may not be able to sleep tonight. Thor originally wanted to refuse when he heard this, but on second thought, it's better to let this outspoken boy suffer a little loss. It's just right to vent the anger in his heart. So he generously handed Thor's hammer to Spider-Man and said with a smile, "Of course, no problem. I am happy to let others try to pick up Thor's hammer, but you have to be careful. If you don't get Thor's hammer's approval, it is very heavy." "OMG, thank you for your generosity, Mr. Thor." "Don't worry, I am very strong," Spider-Man said and directly held his hand on the hammer handle. In an instant, the hammer seemed to feel something and trembled involuntarily. At this time, neither Thor nor Spider-Man noticed that a faint light flashed on Spider-Man's forehead. The mark of the engraving flashed by. Thor couldn't help but laugh in his heart when he heard Spider-Man say that he was very strong. "Just kidding. Thor's hammer can't be lifted by brute force." "Be careful, I'm going to let go. Don't hit your feet," Thor said with a smile on his face, and then suddenly let go of his hand. However, the scene he imagined of Thor's hammer falling directly to the ground did not appear. The scene of Spider-Man panicking did not appear either. On the contrary, Thor's hammer was firmly grasped in Spider-Man's hand. Even from his appearance, he did not feel the slightest bit of difficulty, just like before. Looking at the Thor's hammer in his hand, and then looking at the stunned Thor, Spider-Man asked in confusion and puzzlement, "Mr. Thor, did you really let go?" This. How is it possible?" Thor looked at Thor's hammer in his hand. His eyes almost popped out, and he began to stutter. However, at this moment, Spider-Man shook all over, and then suddenly threw Thor's hammer into the air behind the two of them, crackling. With a burst of mixed thunder and lightning sounds, Loki, who had just changed his clothes, appeared in front of the two. Obviously, this guy just wanted to make a sneak attack. At this time, Loki's face was also extremely surprised, looking at Spider-Man and Thor in disbelief. Obviously, even he couldn't accept the fact that Thor's hammer was picked up by Spider-Man. "Mjolnir, why, you actually like a human boy. Am I not better than him?" Loki quickly reacted, looking at Thor's hammer and said angrily. His words were full of envy, jealousy and hatred. Swish. However, what answered Loki was a bolt of lightning, flashing past the sudden lightning. Loki's face turned a little red. Seeing Loki's appearance, Thor no longer cared about being shocked, and said to Loki in a stern voice, "Loki, come back to Asgard with me. If you take the initiative to go back, your punishment will be lighter, but colluding with outsiders to invade the Nine Realms, it's a serious crime." "Humphrey, now I'm not a person from Asgard. If you have the ability, come and take me back." Loki snorted coldly when he heard this, and his figure gradually disappeared into the air. "Damn it, come out," Thor cursed, subconsciously trying to swing Thor's hammer, but found that his hands were empty. Turning around, he found that Thor's hammer was still in Spider-Man's hand. "Give Mjolnir back to me. We can't let Loki escape again," Thor said anxiously, and at the same time reached out to grab Thor's hammer. "Don't panic, Mr. Thor. Where is your brother?" Spider-Man swung Thor's hammer again, and in an instant, several lightning bolts flew out and hit behind a pillar in the room. "Ah!" With Loki's scream, his figure appeared in front of Spider-Man and Thor again. "Damn, what kind of monster is this? Is he really a human?" Thor was shocked when he saw this, and his eyes changed when he looked at Spider-Man. Chapter 272, Trickery, Traps, and Huge Consumption. He can pick up Thor's hammer and easily see through Loki in stealth. And through a glimpse, Thor also roughly saw Spider-Man's strength. All these factors combined, it is really difficult for Thor to see that Spider-Man is a human. Loki has seen Spider-Man's abnormal perception ability. He simply stopped being invisible, and stood up from the ground, releasing his phantom clone, and then ran upstairs. Now he didn't dare to show his head outside. It was already a mess outside, with so many extraordinary people. If they found him, they might even beat him up. He didn't want to be the first to stand out. What's more, The building had been properly arranged by him, and Loki was confident that he could clean up Spider-Man and Thor. Seeing this, Thor didn't say any more nonsense, and directly took Thor's hammer back from Spider-Man. He made a secret decision in his heart that he would never use the hammer to show off in the future. This really hurt his face. Although Spider-Man was reluctant to give it up, he didn't resist. After all, it wasn't his thing. Otherwise, he might not be able to get the hammer back with Thor's power. "Mr. Thor, please follow me." Seeing Thor choose the dumbest method to eliminate the Phantom clones one by one, Spider-Man said this and rushed towards Loki, who was farthest away, with a spider silk. Now Thor has learned to be smart. After hearing Spider-Man's words, he immediately followed without saying a word. In this way, Odin's two sons with Hydrocephalus and Spider-Man started a chase in the building. There were many traps left by Loki along the way, and the special weapons of the Chitauri. From time to time, violent explosions can be heard from the building. It must be said that Loki is quite good at playing tricks, traps and the like. Chapter 209, something that doesn't exist at all. All love at first sight is just lust. When he was with Maypark, wasn't it the same? Could it be lust? This is very likely. After all, with his appearance, it is possible that he is lustful. To be honest, Ganada's appearance is absolutely top-notch, and her figure is also very good. Compared with Maypark, who ate the slippery fruit, she is only one level lower. Kinlawo has no restraint towards such a beauty. But she is the daughter of the Devourer of Planets after all, and she is not a human being at all. This is not the point. The key is that her attributes are special and she can have children by herself. If I remember correctly, Ganada has shown signs of showing pregnancy at this time. The worm in her body is her child. Kinlawo couldn't accept this. Hermaphrodite, giving birth by herself, and turning green right away. Who can stand this? Chapter 270, Devourer of Stars leaves. Seniority rises. Kinlawo felt more and more uncomfortable the more he thought about it. He quickly threw these messy thoughts out of his head. We'll talk about this later. Anyway, his second woman has been decided, and it's impossible for that robot to get away with it. But now that he appears, it's destined that the robot won't appear. Now we have to deal with the things in hell first. After all, the Ghost Riders are still working hard in hell. Judging from the power they continuously transfer into Carlo's body, the two of them must have encountered a tough battle. There are definitely not a few demons and evil spirits killed. Carlo's power alone has gained so much, and the Streamer Star Meteorite Knife will definitely not be less. And with the addition of meteorites, it is estimated that it will only be more than that of old Carter. Kinlawo is now really impatient to collect the power in the Streamer Star Meteorite Knife. Ganada saw that his father looked speechless, so he quickly looked at the honest man Silver Surfer and said, "Uncle Silver, don't you think so? Did you see Kinlawo take your surfboard?" When he said this, Ganada also winked and tried his best to hint at the Silver Surfer, but her little trick was completely exposed in front of everyone. It would be better to say it openly. Galactus was even more speechless, especially after feeling the strange gazes of Ancient One and Odin. His old face felt burning. He had lost all his shame in the universe. Silver Surfer didn't have any emotions at all. He couldn't understand Ganada's suggestive look. However, he still recalled Ganada's question carefully and said, "After that human cut off the surfboard, I fell into a short unconscious state. When I came to my senses, the surfboard was gone, so I'm not sure if it was him who took it." Although Ganada was not particularly satisfied with this answer, she could still accept it reluctantly. "Father, look, this." All right, forget about this matter." Before Ganada finished speaking, Galactus interrupted his daughter rudely. He really couldn't afford to lose this person. One of the 5 great gods. Galactus, doesn't he have any face? What's more important is that he just sensed the location of the cosmic surfboard. But he found nothing, no dimensional space or anything like that. Planet Devourer was really surprised, and he looked at Kinlawo with new eyes. He didn't expect that this human boy would have such a skill and could really block his perception. At the same time, he was also glad that he was interrupted by the leaky little cotton jacket. Otherwise, it would not be so embarrassing now. "Human, remember, this matter is not over yet. I will come to you again. Silver Shadow, Ganada, let's go. Planet Devourer glared at Kinluo, then stretched out his hand and waved, and the cosmic energy surged, and a gorgeous colorful door appeared in front of him. Silver Surfer heard the words and walked behind Planet Devourer obediently, but Ganada didn't move, just looked at Planet Devourer innocently with his big watery eyes, looking pitiful. Seeing this, the corners of Planet Devourer's mouth twitched again. At this frequency of twitching, it is estimated that he is not far from calling Planet Devourer. Forget it. Do whatever you want, Galactus said, turning to look at Ancient One and said, Ancient One, Ganada is on Earth, please help me keep an eye on her and pay attention to her safety, just consider it as you repaying my favor. As for that kid, don't forget to prepare in advance. Ancient One naturally understood what Galactus meant when he heard this, and nodded with a smile and agreed. Galactus looked at Kinluo again. For some reason, he hated this human more and more in his heart, especially when he saw the other party's indifferent look. It made him even more angry. HMPH. Galactus snorted heavily and walked directly into the colorful door. He was really afraid that if he looked at it for a while longer, he would have the urge to kill him. Silver Surfer followed closely behind, and disappeared into the universe with Galactus. The trouble is finally gone. Ancient One, let's go back to Earth to take a look, and then deal with this guy. How about it? Kinluo looked at Ancient One, shook Mephisto, who only had a trace of breath left in his hand, and said, no problem. Ancient One nodded, and had no idea about Kinluo's proposal. Odin came over with an embarrassed look on his face and said, Mr. Kinluo, I'm so arrogant to call you Brother Kin, but please show some mercy to my two useless sons and don't kill them. Kinluo looked at Odin in surprise. How did they get so senior in such a short time? According to Odin's age, let alone being his brother, even being his great-grandmother great-grandfather is enough. But what Kinluo cares more about is Odin's change in attitude, which used to have a bit of God-King temperament, but now he has become completely amiable. Is it because of the daughter of the Devourer? Kinluo glanced at Ganada, who was not far away from him. This is probably the reason. They treat him as the son-in-law of the Devourer of Planets. But it doesn't matter what you like. It's not a bad thing to get so senior. Kinluo is also looking forward to the scene where Loki and Thor call him uncle. As the saying goes, nothing tastes better than dumplings. Don't worry, as long as there is no accident, I don't bother to care about the two nephews. Kinluo waved his hand and said. Hearing this, Odin was a little bit amused and cried, well, this change of heart is really fast enough. But Odin didn't have any other ideas. On the contrary, he was secretly relieved. If his son could get close to Kinluo, there might be a lot of changes in the future of Asgard. At least those tragedies can happen less. Kinluo turned his head and said to Guyi, Master Guyi, please open the way. Guyi didn't say anything nonsense when he heard this. He turned his wrist and a spark portal appeared in front of him, and inside the door was naturally Tony and his group who were fighting. Kinluo and Guyi walked directly into the portal. Seeing this, Ganada hurriedly followed. As the three entered the portal, the sparks disappeared on the spot. As for Odin, when the portal opened, he had already returned directly to Asgard. After all, the portal is visible to both parties. If the two stupid sons saw him, the scene would be a bit embarrassing. Chapter 271 Hammer Farce stunned the building where the space portal instrument was located. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Tony curled his lips when he saw this, raised his hand and fired the palm cannon as if it was free. After Spider-Man dealt with a few more Chitauri, he rushed towards the roof with his agile figure. He knew in his heart that if he wanted to solve the current situation, he had to extinguish it from the source. The others saw Spider-Man's actions and instantly understood what Spider-Man meant. They all began to cover up. Even Hulk was no exception. TVB Novel Network, Hulk was particularly sensible at this time. Outside the universe, after Galactus retracted his gaze, his expression became a little weird. Ebony Maw, one of the 5 generals of the Black Order, and Thanos of Titan, all of this is their doing. For that guy Death? TSK as for Thanos' pursuit of Lady Death. Almost everyone in the universe with a little status knows it, but there are really not many people who dare to say it so directly. But Galactus is one of those who dare to say it. After all, they are all 5 gods, and there is really nothing to say. If there is nothing else, I will withdraw first. I still have some things to deal with. Kinlawo glanced at Mephisto, who was getting weaker and weaker, and even the soul-sealing technique could not replenish him, and he spoke directly. Now he also saw that the Devourer of Planets had no intention of taking action again. He didn't want to play dumb with these big guys anymore. There are still many souls in hell waiting to be devoured by ghosts and gods. Why, are you in a hurry to go back to save the Earth? Didn't you say that there is no problem with the Earth? The Devourer of Planets smiled and said, who said I'm going to the Earth? Now I have to deal with the things in hell. Mephisto is not dead yet. Kinlawo rolled his eyes, shook Mephisto in his hand and said, "Oh, aren't you afraid that death will trouble you?" A gleam of brilliance flashed in the eyes of the Devourer of Planets. He looked at Kinlawo meaningfully. Kinlawo shrugged his shoulders, said nothing more nonsense, and turned to leave. However, the Devourer of Planets stopped him at this moment. "Wait a minute. Anything else?" Kinlawo frowned and turned around, and said impatiently. Seeing Kinlawo's look, the Devourer of Planets laughed angrily at that time. He said unhappily, "You can go. Give me back the cosmic surfboard." "That's mine. I can't give it to you." Kinlawo deliberately made a strange expression on his face and said, "What are you talking about? What surfboard? Is it a silver board under his feet? I didn't notice it." "Just kidding. How can I hand over the good things I got?" Chapter 269. If you don't believe it, search it. Cotton padded jacket ride. Kinlawo said this. The expressions of everyone present became extremely strange. Not counting Ganata and Silver Surfer, the 2 family members of the gods. Whether it is the Devourer of Planets, the Ancient One, or Odin, they are all well-known figures. Even if they did something bad behind the scenes, at least they will be okay in front of others. For example, Ancient One, her dark mark is hidden very cleverly most of the time, unless faced with special circumstances. Otherwise, it will not be revealed in front of everyone. And Kinlawo can now stand with them, so naturally he is regarded as a person of the same level. But no one expected that Kinlawo would hack the cosmic surfboard in front of others. The reason used is still so far-fetched. It's simply shameless. Human boy, do you think we are fools? The last person Silver Shadow fought with was you, and the surfboard was also cut off by an extremely sharp force. Who else could it be but you? The Devourer of Planets looked at Kinlawo with gritted teeth, especially when he saw his innocent and surprised face. The anger in his heart rose even more. Who said I was the last person to fight the Silver Surfer? You saw it just now. It was clearly Odin's destroyer who fought him last. Maybe the cosmic surfboard was destroyed by your move. This is all possible. I don't have it. Don't blame me. Kinlawo dug his ears and said confidently. That firm look even made Odin, who witnessed everything, doubt whether it was the cosmic surfboard that Kinlawo took away. Could it be that he saw it wrong because of his old eyes? At this time, the Devourer of Planets turned his eyes to Odin, feeling the gaze from the gods. Odin's old heart twitched suddenly, but he didn't want to be implicated in this matter, so he waved his hand and said, Devourer of Planets, you know me. Even if you give it to me, I won't take it. I can't control the power in it at all. The Devourer of Planets nodded slightly when he heard it. Originally, he had never doubted Odin. Just as he said, the power in the cosmic surfboard is extremely special, and ordinary power cannot touch it at all, let alone mobilize the power inside. This thing is useless to others. https://w.tvts.net/ But when it comes to Kinlawo, it is difficult for the Devourer of Planets to be sure. After all, this guy has many strange powers, which means that he can absorb all rivers and seas. It is hard to say that he cannot absorb cosmic energy. Human boy, Do you know that the surfboard is made by me? I can sense its position at any time. Even if you put it in other dimensions or spaces, you can't escape my perception. So it's better to be quick." The devourer of planets stared at Kinluo and spoke with great confidence, while also paying attention to Kinluo's expression. It seems that he wants to see some ugly panic on his expression. The result disappointed the devourer of planets. He did not see any emotional fluctuations on Kinluo's face, and he still looked calm. Habitual bandit, must be a habitual bandit, devourer cursed in his heart, and at the same time thought of Kinluo's move just now. He was more convinced that it was him. "Oh, what's the use of saying this? If you don't believe it, search it, or you can sense it now. Don't keep talking here." Kinluo waved his hand impatiently, then he opened his arms and said with a mocking expression, "Tsk God, just kidding. Things put into the inventory." Devourer wants to find Grandma. Kinluo doesn't believe that the system can be seen through by a god in the Marvel world. If that's the case, then this system is too rubbish. "Okay, human boy, if you really let me find it, you'd better be prepared to accept the wrath of a god." Devourer was really angry. As he said that, he closed his eyes and prepared to fully sense the location of the cosmic surfboard. Ganata was a little anxious at this time. She was paying attention to the whole process, so she naturally knew that Kinluo had put away the cosmic surfboard. Although she didn't know where Kinluo received it and whether it was reliable. If he was really discovered, with his father's temper, it is very likely that the two sides would start a conflict again. So after seeing his father close his eyes, Ganata quickly grabbed the arm of the devourer of planets and said, "Dad, don't bother. I saw it with my own eyes just now." Kinluo really didn't take the space surfboard. Ganata said this. The corner of the devourer of planets couldn't help but jump. "This cotton jacket can't be used. Where is the leak? It's clearly a breeze." Odin and Guyi looked at Ganata almost at the same time, and then turned their eyes to Kinluo, showing admiration. Especially Odin. "Look at him. What has he fooled the daughter of the gods into? What about his two stupid sons? Good guy. He is still playing house on earth. If his eldest son can get Ganata like Kinluo, he can retire with peace of mind now. Is it necessary to support it so hard? There is no need to worry about Hela. It's really a death when compared to others. You can't compare the goods." Odin immediately had the feeling that he should have a son like Kinluo. Of course, he was just thinking about it. If he said it out loud, he could hardly guarantee that Kinluo would not directly give him a sword-breaking blow. Kinluo looked at Ganata strangely. He was not a fool. The girl's behavior was basically equivalent to writing the word "she fell in love with him" on her face. But why? Kinluo was almost certain that this was definitely the first time he saw the daughter of the devourer of planets. There was absolutely no contact before. As for love at first sight, Kinluo absolutely did not believe it. Chapter 211, 3 times the limit. Mist Kick, Rain Lightning Spider Silk. Maypark and Spider-Man arrived at the battlefield almost at the same time, and countless sharp blades and several spider silks were released. They immediately knocked down a group of Chitauri. This reduced a lot of pressure on Tony. "OMG, how many are there?" Spider-Man looked at the densely packed Chitauri soldiers and couldn't help but secretly smack his lips. Maypark didn't care so much, and attacked with his finger gun and mist kick one after another, constantly destroying the enemy, and his efficiency was simply terrifying. "Venom, you should have recovered now, right?" Spider-Man held the two Chitauri and asked while releasing special spider silk. "It's okay, nothing serious, just say it." Venom's slightly weak voice sounded, and there was no longer the impatience and unhappiness in his words. He still remembered the experience of being controlled before, and he remembered Spider-Man's restraint everywhere, and Maypark's behavior of helping him get rid of it even if he would rather be attacked by the enemy. He just didn't say it. "You can move freely in a while. You don't need to help me anymore. You can do whatever you want this time," Spider-Man said after punching a Chitauri soldier. "Are you sure?" Hearing the words "you can do whatever you want," Venom instantly became energetic. He felt that his soul was not so weak anymore. By nature, Venom still yearns for the more brutal way. It's just that he has been suppressed by Spider-Man, and every battle is always very unpleasant. And he hasn't had a big meal for a long time. Of course, the enemy this time is not ordinary. So please. Spider-Man looked at the space portal where people kept coming, and said seriously, since following Kinluo, Spider-Man's saintly problems have been improved a lot. In addition, this time, he really can't give him a chance to be a saint, so he decisively chose to release the beast Venom. Okay, just wait and see. Venom was excited and spoke directly in the Dragon Country dialect. Then Spider-Man felt his power drop sharply, and then Venom left his body and rushed towards the Chitauri soldiers. Perhaps in terms of fighting, Spider-Man is not much worse than Venom, and may even be stronger, but in terms of killing, Venom is definitely Spider-Man's ancestor. Venom turned into a killing weapon, and countless spikes rushed out from all parts of his body, like a candied hose, and instantly solved the problems of dozens of Chitauri around him. However, at this moment, the sky above Spider-Man's head suddenly darkened, and when he looked up, he saw a Leviathan monster that looked like a giant steel snake falling from the sky and smashing towards him. "Walter!" Spider-Man exclaimed, and just as he wanted to dodge, he saw Venom turn into a rubber band again and bounce towards the Leviathan monster, as Venom covered the monster with his palm. A Venom version of the Leviathan monster appeared on the battlefield. Compared with those Leviathan monsters, the Venom version is much more domineering, and its attack power is even more fierce. Instantly swept across a group of Chitauri soldiers. "Fuck, do you have to be so exaggerated? It's amazing," Tony May Park exclaimed almost at the same time, obviously shocked by Venom's change. "Venom is awesome," Spider-Man shouted excitedly. However, at this moment, 6 more Leviathans descended from the sky and surrounded the Venom version of the Leviathan. Obviously, they were going to be unethical. Chapter 268, All Attack, Ask for Surfboards. Storm Kick, Scythe Slash. Seeing this, Maypark turned over and kicked. Then the huge storm kick blade like the sickle of the god of death soared into the sky and flew towards the Leviathan. Sizzled, a tooth-grinding sound rang out, accompanied by a flash of sparks, and the battleship was directly cut into 2 sections and fell heavily from the sky. Although 1 Leviathan was solved, the remaining 5 Leviathans rushed towards the Venom battleship. Arc Pulse Cannon. Tony raised his wrist, and the thick Arc Pulse Cannon gushed out. Boom. With a loud bang, another Leviathan was blasted in the head and lost its fighting power. Little Spider also took action at this time, and shot out countless lightning spider silks. They stuck to a Leviathan accurately. "Get down!" Little Spider roared, his arm muscles bulging. He immediately stopped the Leviathan that was constantly approaching the Venom battleship, and kept pulling it down, and under the impact of the lightning spider silk, the Leviathan was covered with black smoke and sparks. It was obvious that it was not far from being scrapped. There were still 3 Leviathans left in the sky. Venom also showed his power at this time, and directly rolled over with death, entangled the 2 Leviathans together. Squeak accompanied by a tooth-grinding sound. The 2 Leviathans were actually twisted into a dough twist by him. Sparks of lightning flew everywhere. Faced with the successive destruction of his companions, the last Leviathan, also the farthest one, directly launched a suicide attack, and the metal material on his body almost doubled. However, at this moment, a green figure flew over the sky. Bang! The green figure hit the top of the Leviathan heavily, making a loud noise, and then began to beat it inhumanely. The Leviathan was destroyed. It fell to the ground. Hulk, haha. His shield finally unable to sit still. Seeing the familiar green figure, Tony couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Of course, this was not aimed at Hulk, but only at S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony had also seen Hulk's fierce fighting power, so he naturally welcomed his arrival. Captain, Black Widow, and Daredevil, who arrived late, also joined the battlefield. As the number of people increased, the battlefield became more and more lively. However, the 3 people who joined later were much less capable than the others. Thor saw that the battle situation was quite good, so he did not join the battlefield directly, and prepared to find his stupid brother first. Looking at the group of people who were showing their might, the Chitauri leader's eyes were full of ferocity, but he did not make any moves. As a leader, how could he easily take action, especially when he saw the Venom version of the Leviathan? He could not take action easily. There was still a steady stream of Chitauri troops joining in the space transmission. In the eyes of the Chitauri leader, These Earthlings were individually strong, so what could they do? The human wave tactics could wear these hateful Earthlings to death. "Sorry, we are late." The captain rushed to Tony's side and said with an apologetic tone, "Following orders? I understand. It's the same with or without you, of course, except for the big green guy." Seeing Hulk grabbing two Chitauri as weapons and playing with windmills, Tony, who was speaking venomously, couldn't help but exclaim loudly, "Hulk, good job." Hee. Hulk turned around and raised his mouth to reveal his big white teeth, and there seemed to be a faint light flashing. Black Widow, who had just snatched the Chitauri's weapon, couldn't help but tremble when she saw this scene. She covered her abdomen with her palm and felt a little pain. When she first came into contact with Hulk, Hulk smiled like this, and then punched her directly and vomited blood. Even now, seeing Hulk smile like this, Black Widow feels chills. Facing Tony's venomous tongue, the captain just smiled helplessly. "Sorry." After that, the captain flew over and used a flying shield to deal with the two Chitauri. Chapter 212. Kinluo, Ancient One. Odin and Ganata all looked over at this time. On a deserted planet somewhere, Ebony Maw was maintaining the stability of the space portal. There was no way. The space portal made by the instrument had many defects, especially this large space portal. There were many bugs. If Ebony Maw did not maintain it, I am afraid that it would not take long before the space portal would collapse on its own, and those Chitauri in the space portal would probably become dust in the universe. In order to prevent the last accident from happening, Purple Potato Spirit sat next to Ebony Maw, watching him maintain the space portal. Suddenly, the faces of Ebony Maw and Purple Potato Spirit changed. With their keen perception, they clearly felt the gaze of the strong at this moment. And it was not just one strong man, but the gaze of several strong men. Almost every one of them was no worse than Purple Potato Spirit. The strongest one, it turned out to be a god. Just relying on a single look, Purple Potato Spirit and Ebony Maw really couldn't tell which god was watching them. Being watched by so many big guys, the Purple Potato Spirit couldn't help but feel his scalp tingling and his mouth bitter. If these big guys attack, even he might not have a chance to escape. The Purple Potato Spirit reacted like this, not to mention the weaker Ebony Maw. At this time, Ebony Maw's body was shaking like a sieve, and his face was full of fear. The power to maintain the space portal couldn't help but stagnate. The entire space portal became unstable, and the Chitauri pedestrians who were still being teleported, suddenly, more than half of them didn't know where they went, or were directly torn into pieces by the terrifying space force. Fortunately, the terrifying gaze came and went quickly. In less than half a minute, it disappeared without a trace. Times N. The endless screams awakened the already frightened Ebony Maw. Looking at the twisted space portal, Ebony Maw was startled and hurriedly started to maintain it again, but this time, he consumed several times more power than usual to barely stabilize the space teleportation. Even though Ebony Maw had recovered as quickly as possible, the Chitauri still suffered heavy losses. In just a minute or so, they lost nearly 1,000 soldiers and 3 or 4 warships. But now it is really difficult for Purple Potato Elf and Ebony Maw to focus on these unlucky Chitauri. The gaze just now was too terrifying. They couldn't help but think wildly. "Lord Thanos, do you think that the goddess of death sensed your actions and came to observe you?" Seeing that Thanos was still in deep thought, Ebony Maw couldn't help but ask. He really wanted to know this accurate answer from Thanos, otherwise, it would be difficult for him to calm down his uneasy mood. Thanos saw Ebony Maw like this. Naturally, he understood what he was thinking, but Thanos was unwilling to lie, so he shook his head and said frankly, "I don't know either. I can't tell anything from just a few glances, but it's not impossible that it's Lady Death. Don't think too much, do everything according to the plan, and don't let the Chitauri have any more accidents." Hearing this, Ebony Maw's uneasy heart was relieved a little, but he was still in a state of panic. But for him, Thanos's order is heaven. He forced all the messy thoughts out of his body and maintained the stability of the space teleportation array with all his heart. On the Earth, The leader of the Chitauri who was organizing his troops was suddenly stunned. There was a vacancy in the space portal? Why was the transmission interrupted? Is there something wrong with the portal? But the next scene answered his question. I saw several incomplete Chitauri soldiers falling out of the space portal. At the same time, there were a lot of broken limbs and arms, as well as the wreckage of the giant Python battleship. Damn, what happened? Loki saw this scene and ran over with a frown. Asshole, what on earth did you do? Is there something wrong with you? The leader of the Chitauri grabbed the collar of Loki, who had just changed his clothes, with a look of anger on his face. Why are you crazy? How could there be any problem with me? Loki said as he knocked off the arm of the leader of the Chitauri. If it's not your problem, then it must be Lord Thanos's problem? The Chitauri asked angrily, gritting his teeth. Loki was speechless. Thanos was just maintaining the space portal, and it was Ebony Maw who was maintaining it. What could go wrong? Chapter 267. The war begins, and the Venom battleship Loki is basically the one who takes the blame. In the current situation, he really can't explain anything. After all, relatively speaking, it is more likely that there is a problem with him. The leader of the Chitauri looked at Loki's hesitation and his anger rose again. Go to hell, you damned rubbish wizard. I'll make you equip my soldiers with, the Chitauri leader roared, waving his fist and about to punch Loki in the face. But before the Chitauri leader finished speaking, a burst of pop music sounded. It was also at this moment that Loki and the others keenly sensed the crisis. They all retreated. Arc pulse cannon. However, at this moment, a thick blue arc beam blasted towards the position where they had just stood. Boom. The arc beam exploded, and the terrifying power spread out, and immediately raised a cloud of dust. Feeling the power of this move, Loki and the Chitauri leader were sweating secretly. Fortunately, they reacted in time and barely avoided this attack. But the Chitauri behind them were not so lucky. Hundreds of Chitauri were directly blasted into slag on the spot. Tony appeared in the sky, looking at the Chitauri who were blasted to pieces, and couldn't help feeling a little regretful. I was thinking of getting rid of the other party's leader at once. What a pity this rare opportunity was. Tony's sudden appearance, in a way, helped Loki out. The Chitauri leader no longer stared at Loki. He looked at Tony, and the anger in his heart could no longer be suppressed. He waved his hand angrily and said, "Kill this despicable bug." Roar. Times N. Hearing the order of their leader, the Chitauri roared, stepped on the flying vehicle and rushed directly towards Tony. TVB Novel Network. Looking at the Chitauri, there must be tens of thousands of them. Tony didn't hesitate, and directly opened the protective shield, opened his hand at the same time, and blasted out the palm cannon as if it was free. Boom, boom, boom. The explosions rang out one after another, and countless Chitauri soldiers were blasted into slag. At this moment, the Chitauri were not grass, and they could not be harvested by Tony. The special weapons continuously emitted beams of light, bombarding Tony, and for a moment it was like fireworks, but all of them were blocked by Tony's protective shield. With such intensive attacks, Tony's energy was consumed very quickly. But he was not panicked at all. Now he was a man with 300% energy, so he could spend it freely. At worst, he still had 2 powerful coins. Loki looked at Tony who was showing his power and couldn't help but feel a little surprised. He was not so fierce just now. How did he suddenly become so powerful? Suddenly, Loki seemed to think of something, and his face suddenly became gloomy. Fuck, it's that damn coin again. Loki cursed, and then his figure disappeared on the battlefield. Now that there were Zeta's soldiers, he didn't need to take action at all, so there was no need to stay here. More importantly, he was not sure whether the other party still had that damn coin in his hand. Loki didn't want to be struck by lightning again. Chapter 213. The rest of the people also left in a very short time. Soon, only Nick Fury was left in the entire secret base. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at the blue light circle in the sky, his face full of uncertain expressions. Chapter 265. The Chitauri army, shameless under the space portal. Loki, who was extremely embarrassed, looked at the countless stars outside the door. There was a proud and relaxed look on his face. Great, great, finally this portal is opened. Damn Earth, how can there be so many troublesome guys? Chitauri army. Come! Loki raised his hand, raised his arms and shouted, and at the same time increased the energy infusion of the cosmic cube again. In an instant, the blue light column doubled in thickness again, and the space portal also expanded. 1, 2, 3, countless Chitauri armies flew out of the space portal like dumplings, floating not far from Loki. At the same time, the Chitauri warship, the existence that was like a giant metal python, also drilled out of the space portal. The leader of the Chitauri, the other, stood on the giant python warship, looking down at Loki. A mocking look appeared on his face. Nine Realms #1 Mage, how did you become like this? Hearing this, the smile on Loki's face, which was originally ecstatic, suddenly froze. He picked up the wet towel prepared by the security guards around him and wiped his face fiercely. The other, don't forget, on Earth, you have to obey my command. This is the order of Lord Thanos. The Chitauri leader's face suddenly darkened when he heard this, but Loki was right. Thanos did say such a thing. Humphrey, Loki, don't be too proud too early. If this thing fails, there will be no place for you between heaven and earth. The Chitauri leader snorted coldly and said unhappily, of course I know, now go and lead your army quickly. If you can't even take down a small earth, what use does Lord Thanos have for you? Loki's face showed his signature evil smile. The Chitauri leader really wanted to tear Loki to pieces at this time, but he also knew that if he really did that, he would be dead soon. Humphrey, with a heavy cold snort, the Chitauri leader began to integrate the Chitauri army. Loki saw him leave, and the smile on his face faded. He turned his head and looked at the group of people who were treating Hawkeye and asked, how long will it take for him to wake up, Master? Hawkeye Barton has multiple injuries and several fractures in his bones. It will take at least 3 months to recover his full combat power, a man in a white coat said with a serious face. This is a doctor controlled by Loki. When Loki ran out of the shield base with injuries, it was he who helped treat him. Of course, the mind gem was absolutely indispensable for this doctor to be able to take action. However, Loki was able to recover from his injuries so quickly, thanks to his own frost giant bloodline. It must be said that this bloodline is really too resistant to beatings, and the recovery ability is also very strong, but Hawkeye doesn't have the blood of Loki. Although Hawkeye has strong physical fitness, he is still not out of the category of ordinary people, not to mention the captain. Even the Black Widow is inferior to him. After all, he has been transformed by technology and ruthlessness. He has experienced the attacks of Tony and Daredevil, and was struck by lightning twice because of following Loki. It is a blessing that he is not dead. Now he is in a state of serious injury. The 3 months mentioned by the doctor is still as fast as possible. In his opinion, Hawkeye's condition will take at least 1.5 years to recuperate. Listen carefully to what I say. I ask when he can wake up. Loki narrowed his eyes and said to the doctor coldly, feeling Loki's killing intent. The doctor swallowed his saliva involuntarily. If you use some medicine, it will only take a few minutes. Very good. Loki nodded and said in a calm tone, I remember that you have some special things on Earth that can block pain and some messy things. Use them on him. I want him to recover his fighting power in a short time. If you use items like sealing together, it can indeed do this, but it will cause too much damage to his body and may cause indelible consequences. I don't recommend you to do this. The doctor's face suddenly changed when he heard this. If he really treated it as Loki did, Hawkeye would not be able to fight in the future, and he might not even be able to live a normal life. Humphrey, in the future? He doesn't need a future. Now and immediately, do as I say. Loki snorted coldly, swung the broken mind scepter in his hand, pointed the tip of the staff at the doctor's nose and spoke sternly. Yes, Master. A trace of struggle flashed in the doctor's eyes. His professional ethics did not allow him to do this, but he eventually lost to the control of the Mind Stone. Loki looked at the doctor and his assistant who were busy again. A wicked smile appeared on his face. Although the Chitauri army has arrived, the attitude of the Chitauri leader makes him feel a little uneasy. He still needs his own people with fighting power around him. Hawkeye is his only choice. As for what will happen to Hawkeye in the future and whether there will be any sequelae, Loki doesn't care about these. TVB Novel Network. In his opinion, mortals are just ants. and Hawkeye is just a useful and stronger ant. In the universe, such a large space portal has been opened on the Earth, and it naturally cannot escape the eyes of Kinlawo and others. Anyway, as long as you are not blind, you can see the space portal on the Earth. It seems that your Earth is in some trouble. The Chitauri are quite difficult to deal with ordinary creatures. The Devourer of Planets set his eyes on Kinlawo and Ancient One, with a gloating smile on his face. Obviously, the ordinary creatures he called naturally included humans on the Earth. Moreover, the Devourer of Planets suddenly changed the subject and set his eyes on Odin, whose face had just teased. The person who summoned the Chitauri seems to be a frost giant. I remember that he should have a close relationship with you. TSK, this is really interesting. Odin's old face was a little embarrassed when he heard this, and he glanced at Kinlawo and Ancient One awkwardly. At such a critical moment, his son was still making trouble. Odin's mood at this time can be imagined. The point is that all this was caused by him, and the key is that he did not expect things to develop to this point. He did not expect the Devourer of Planets to come at this time. Odin really regretted coming here in person more and more. If the destroyer was destroyed, he would just stay honestly. Now it's good. For the first time in so many years, Odin felt ashamed. Chapter 266 The Gaze of the Big Boss. Loki took the blame. The Devourer of Planets saw that Ancient One and Kinlawo were both calm. A trace of frustration rose in his heart. Originally, he wanted to see the anxious look of Ancient One and Kinlawo. What Galactus didn't know was that Kinlawo and Guyi had known all this for a long time. The current situation was still under control. They were naturally not in a hurry. Kinlawo now had much more power than the 6 first-generation Avengers. Dealing with Loki might not be so smooth, but if they wanted to easily invade the Earth, Loki and the Starry Army alone were not enough. Odin was also relieved at this time. If Guyi and Kinlawo blamed him at the same time, his old arms and legs would really not be able to bear it. If we were to say who was the most anxious person here, it would definitely be Ganata. Ganata had a special feeling for the Earth. Now that she saw someone invading the Earth, Ganata was naturally very anxious, but in this situation, it was basically unrealistic for her to go to the Earth to help. She couldn't even get past her father. They are just some minor characters. The extraordinary people on Earth can deal with them, but the people behind them are quite interesting, Kinlawo said, then turned to look at Devourer, with a half-smile on his face, and said, Devourer, do you know who invaded the Earth? The people behind? Devourer showed a puzzled look on his face. It was not the first time that the Chitauri invaded other planets, and their presence was not surprising at all. But when it comes to the people behind them, Devourer really hasn't paid attention to them. They are just a group of ants, not worthy of his attention. But since Kinlawo said so, Devourer was really curious about who was behind these Chitauri. He raised his eyes slightly, and countless stars seemed to flash in his purple eyes, and his eyes fell on the huge space portal. Chapter 214 Our side is definitely the one being abused. Just wait, you bunch of humble mortals. The majesty of God is not so easy to touch. Loki made a harsh remark, preparing to teleport directly to the instrument with Hawkeye to open the space gate. When the Chitauri army arrives, everything will be settled. Sir, the energy is less than 2%, and the function of the nanosuit is automatically shut down at 95%. At this time, Tony heard Jarvis' voice. He gritted his teeth and took out the coin from outside the suit. He knew that it was time to use this thing. It's not over yet. Don't think about escaping. Tony roared and suddenly bounced the coin high. Then he used the remaining energy to start the thrusters and rushed towards Loki and his team. Seeing this, the others followed. Originally, Loki didn't care about the charge of Tony and others, but when he saw the coin flashing with gold and silver, instantly, the whole person was numb. Chapter 264 Energy 300%, Space Gate. Loki hated this coin. He had a deep psychological shadow. He was almost bleeding because of this coin. If it weren't for it, Thor's grave would be several inches tall now. https://w.tvts.net/dammit. Loki cursed and urged the power of the cosmic cube even faster. He didn't want to be struck by lightning again, but the lightning came a little faster than he thought. Countless lightning bolts fell from the sky. They struck Loki directly. The power of lightning instantly knocked Loki to the ground. For a moment, Loki had only one thought in his mind. The power of this lightning was wrong. It didn't seem like the power of that damn coin at all. Instead, it was more like the power of his brainless brother. Loki, surrender. Follow me back to be punished. Suddenly a thick and rough voice sounded from the sky. Thor, wearing Thor's armor and holding Thor's hammer, descended from the sky at a very fast speed. Only a fool would go back with you, Loki cursed, and the power of the cosmic cube had been activated. As the blue light appeared, the sky was suddenly covered with dark clouds, and just as he was about to disappear, several lightning bolts fell from the sky again. The speed was so fast that it even surpassed the power of the cosmic cube. Boom! This time it was right. Just as he disappeared, Loki felt the bombardment of the familiar yet unfamiliar lightning, and his mood became extremely strange. Loki disappeared. All the lightning in the sky bombarded Tony. After seeing that the coin of destiny had all turned silver, May Parker immediately retreated with the people around her. She had seen the effect of this coin on people, so she naturally would not take everyone to be struck by lightning. As lightning continued to pour into his body, even Tony in his battle suit felt a special numbness. Ding! The energy has reached 300%. Jarvis' voice sounded. Tony felt the world light up in an instant. He looked at his hands with disbelief in his eyes. Wow, this is cool. As for the parts of the armor that were damaged by lightning, they were all repaired by Nano. At this time, Thor descended from the sky and looked at Tony, who was still glowing with lightning, with a look of surprise on his face. He was as familiar with the lightning as Loki was. It was just that one was positive and the other was negative. At the same time, he also saw May Parker behind Tony, thinking of his mother's instructions before leaving. So Thor immediately bowed to May Parker and said, "Hello, Miss Mai. These are all Mr. Kinlawo's friends. I wonder where Mr. Kinlawo is now. My brother has caused trouble for the Earth. I'm really sorry. Kin is not on the Earth now. He is solving bigger problems outside. It turns out that the man is your brother, the one who wanted to kill you with the destroyer before? You brothers really have a deep feeling relationship." May Parker, who knew some inside information, looked at Thor with a strange look in his eyes. There should be a limit to the killing of brothers. Before, the younger brother manipulated an iron lump to kill his elder brother, and now the elder brother strikes his younger brother with lightning when they meet. This brotherly love is simply amazing. Thor couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard this, and could only smile awkwardly. Boom. However, at this moment, a loud noise came from a tall building in the distance. Then a blue beam of light shot up into the sky. Because it was at night, the beam of light was surprisingly dazzling, and people in the whole city were awakened by this unexpected change. In an instant, everyone hid in a safe area skillfully. This is the power of the space gate. How is it possible? How can Loki have such power? No, the cosmic cube. Damn it. Thor looked at the huge space gate, and felt that his eyes were slightly black. He knew very well what such a space gate represented. At the same time, he felt a little regretful. If he had known that he would come to Earth, he would not want to find Jane. If he could have come earlier, he would not have been in such a state now. Compared with Thor's regret, May Parker and Tony and his group were very calm. After all, Kinlawo had told them about this matter in advance, so they didn't feel too much surprise, but they were a little regretful that they didn't solve Loki. In the end, the space gate was opened. Is the alien army coming? Spider-Man looked at the space gate with a bit of curiosity and excitement on his face. For him, the feeling of seeing aliens is no less than seeing his idols. Even if these aliens are about to become their enemies, go over quickly, and notify those guys who are watching the show to prepare to evacuate the crowd. Really? Tony said and threw a spare spiderweb launcher to Spider-Man, and the thrusters started, and his feet merged together at the same time. The whole person rushed towards the location of the space gate like a cannonball. With the addition of 300% energy, Tony's speed can be called amazing. May Parker and others also showed their magical powers and rushed towards the location of the space gate. Only Thor, who was confused, and Daredevil, who was helpless, were left at the scene. "Alas, why can't I fly?" Daredevil sighed. then took a step and began to run wildly. At the same time, he secretly made up his mind that he must bring a means of transportation next time he goes out, otherwise it would be too uncomfortable. Who are these people? Thor shook his head, but the current situation was tense and he didn't care about anything. He shook Thor's hammer frantically, and then with the help of the power of Thor's hammer, Thor also flew towards the space gate. Feeling Thor flying over his head, the bitterness in Daredevil's heart became even stronger. Boiled egg. Don't watch the show. The real show is coming, and you S.H.I.E.L.D. should also take action. Don't always think about eating ready-made. Tony directly transmitted the voice to the secret place of S.H.I.E.L.D. through Jarvis, and turned on the public broadcast mode. Nick Fury's face was gloomy, and the expressions of the people around him were even more weird, especially the Captain and Banner. A trace of disdain flashed in the depths of their eyes at almost the same time. Start now. Evacuate the crowd and find the location of Coulson and the doctor immediately. They must have done all this. Captain, lead the team to support Tony and the others. Nick Fury almost gritted his teeth and gave the order. The captain said nothing, put on his shield and walked outside. Chapter 215. Instead, she used her observation haki to observe Venom's soul, or more precisely, his mental state. She had seen clearly how Venom had betrayed her and the air just now. After carefully observing Venom's state, May Park discovered that Venom was not completely controlled, but there was only a crack in the mental barrier. As a result, the power of the Mind Gem had taken advantage of the situation to enter. However, the invasion of the Mind Gem's energy was not too much. As long as the power of the Mind Gem in Venom's spirit and soul was dispelled, he could return to normal. Originally, May Park wanted to wait for Kinlawo to come back to solve this problem. Now it seems that she can solve it without Kinlawo's help. Venom, bear with it. I will help you dispel the power that controls your soul. Hearing May Park's words, Venom's huge eyes flashed with blue light. He subconsciously wanted to run, but was quickly hugged by Spider-Man and tied to the spot. Let me go. Damn it. Damn guy. Venom struggled desperately, but in terms of strength alone, he was still a level weaker than Spider-Man. Just when Venom was about to use a ruthless move to force Spider-Man back, May Park had already slapped him on the head. An almost visible aura burst out from May Park. It was the most special domineering aura among the three colors of domineering. Only one king's qualification can be born among a million people in the pirate world. If it weren't for Kinlawo's help, May Park might not be able to comprehend such power in his life. There is no way. This kind of power depends entirely on talent, and has little to do with the effort of cultivation. This domineering aura bombarded Venom's body. At this time, Venom and Spider-Man stood still in place instantly. At this moment, they felt like a small boat in the sea, and they could be swallowed by the stormy waves of the sea at any time. TVB Novel Network. Spider-Man's senses were even weaker. After all, May Park mainly targeted Venom, and Spider-Man was just an incidental one. Chapter 263. Overlord breaks the soul. The general situation is over. Under the impact of the domineering aura, Venom only felt that his soul was shaking unconsciously at this moment. Even his mind was blank, and his consciousness gradually became blurred. With the help of his observation haki, May Park could see that the power of the Mind Stone in Venom's soul was slowly dissipating. But soon, the dissipated power condensed again, almost at the same speed as the dissipation. He froze here for a moment. May Park did not expect the opponent's power to be so difficult to deal with. At the same time, May Park also knew that his mental power was still too weak to fully exert the power of the Conqueror's haki. Otherwise, such an embarrassing scene would not have occurred. As the speed of consumption and recovery gradually equalized, Venom's face also showed a look of pain. After all, this was an attack from the soul. Even though Venom's mental defense ability was special, it could not withstand such a toss. The movement here was so loud. Loki, who was fighting with Tony, naturally noticed this side. At the same time, he also noticed that May Park was trying to dispel the power of the Mind Stone in Venom's soul. However, after feeling Venom's current state through the Mind Stone, https://w.tvts.net/Loki showed a sneer on his face. What a ridiculous woman, relying on your meager mental power, you want to expel the power of the gemstone. You are overestimating yourself. Go to hell. Just as Loki finished his mocking words, Tony seized the opportunity and blasted him away with a palm cannon. Puff. Loki fell heavily to the ground, and he only felt a sweetness in his throat, and then suddenly spurted out a large mouthful of blood. After fighting for such a long time, even with the blood of the frost giant, Loki couldn't bear it. At this time, Hawkeye, who was covered in injuries, fired 6 shots in a row and barely forced Daredevil back. Then he rushed towards Loki. He said with a slightly hoarse voice, "Master, there is news from the other side. Everything is ready and can be activated at any time." "Good job." Loki was delighted when he heard the words, and grabbed the cosmic cube with one hand and Hawkeye's hand with the other. "Prepare to teleport over, rescue Venom, and activate the space gate." After all, up to now, he has only controlled 2 extraordinary powers, so there is no reason to give up. However, just as Loki was preparing to act, he suddenly felt a burst of terrifying momentum. The surrounding land was shattered because it could not withstand this momentum. At the same time, Loki felt that the power of the mind gem that controlled Venom was rapidly dissipating. "Walter?" Loki was really shocked and couldn't help but scream. He turned his head suddenly. I saw that on Venom's side, a mark appeared at the center of May Park's eyebrows. With the appearance of this mark, May Park's momentum has changed dramatically. This time the gap is more exaggerated than Pansy and Io. At this time, May Park showed a happy face. He exerted his domineering power with all his strength, ready to take down the power of the mind gem in Venom in one fell swoop. Just seeing Venom in so much pain, May Park was ready to give up. But at the critical moment, Kinlawo's mark suddenly burst out with terrifying spiritual power. This power was added to May Park's domineering aura, and a qualitative change occurred in an instant. He crushed the power of the Mind Stone with a crushing attitude. "Damn it, it's this damn rune again." Loki was furious as he watched the rune that was causing trouble appear again. The power of the cosmic cube was activated. He instantly appeared behind May Park, and the Mind Scepter in his hand burst into a dazzling light. He was ready to solve this troublesome woman in one fell swoop. Hawkeye naturally understood her intentions, and barely raised the cube longbow with his injured arm, and the energy arrow was also condensed at this moment. Loki and Hawkeye attacked almost at the same time, but May Park had no intention of dodging. Now Venom has reached a critical moment. If it is not expelled cleanly this time, it is very likely to have some bad special effects on Venom. May Park doesn't want Venom to have any problems. After getting along with each other for this period of time, May Park has accepted Venom's existence and regarded him as a family member. Moreover, May Park is confident in her slippery fruit, and she can completely slide away from such an attack. However, at this moment, Tony rushed over, with the shield opened to the maximum, perfectly blocking the attacks of Loki and Hawkeye. Boom, boom. 2 consecutive explosions sounded, and Tony's shield finally reached its limit and completely shattered. During the battle just now, Tony had never stopped observing Loki, feeling the unusual movements of May Park and the murderous intent in Loki's eyes. Tony immediately guessed that Loki was going to attack May Park and the others, so he decisively gave up the arc pulse cannon that had been condensed, and used all his energy on the shield and thrusters. Ah! Suddenly Venom let out a shrill scream, and then a faint blue light emerged from his eyes, and then dissipated into the air. Venom was like a puddle of mud, and collapsed on the body of the little spider behind him. Then his body changed and merged into the body of the little spider. The battle suit on the little spider also turned black again at this moment. May Park breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and nodded to Tony. The mark on his forehead dimmed again at this moment. Loki's teeth were almost broken. Looking at Tony, May Parker and others, as well as Daredevil who was rushing over, he knew that there was no hope if he continued to fight. Chapter 216. Scare you to death. I let you become a superhero but you still kept it a secret. Now I finally got my revenge. May Park felt very happy. She smiled at Spider-Man and said, I learned it a long time ago. Not only the moon step, but also the finger gun and the storm kick. I can use them too. May Park raised his hands and feet at the same time, and suddenly a stream of energy and a wind blade were sent out, bombarding Venom at the same time. Feeling the power of the energy and wind blade, Venom's face changed instantly. He knew that Maypark had extraordinary power, but he didn't expect Maypark's power to be so strong. It was much stronger than Spider-Man's half-baked storm kick. Venom didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly transformed and released the truck form. Only then did he dodge Maypark's storm kick and finger gun. Bang! Sizzle! The finger gun and the storm kick fell on the ruins behind Venom, and suddenly burst out with tyrannical power, raising a cloud of dust. OMG! Spider-Man couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this. Even though he couldn't believe it in his heart, the fact was already in front of him. He couldn't help but believe it. Aunt May, why didn't you tell me earlier? You hid it so deeply. Spider-Man came back to his senses and looked at May Parker with some disappointment. In fact, he couldn't say he was disappointed. To be precise, he was shocked by May Parker's proficient Navy 6 styles. Even though Aunt May learned the Navy 6 styles before him, but he himself has extraordinary power. Logically speaking, he should learn better than May Parker. But the result is that others have reached the level of proficiency or even mastery, and the shaving that he is best at has only barely escaped the entry level 2 days ago. With such a gap, it would be strange if Spider-Man didn't feel shocked. But Spider-Man probably never thought that the reason why May Parker has the current strength is entirely because Kinlawo helped her to cheat. Of course, May Parker would naturally not tell him about this kind of thing. After hearing what Spider-Man said, May Parker spoke clearly and quickly, as if he had rehearsed it thousands of times. When you became the superhero Spider-Man, didn't you tell me? We are the same. Spider-Man was completely speechless this time. His mouth twitched a few times, and he decisively chose to remain silent. At this time, May Parker turned around and looked at Venom, who was sneaking away, and said, "Venom, where are you going?" "Ah, my son is looking for me." Venom said this with a forced smile, then turned and ran in the direction of Loki. He had to run. It was no problem for him to deal with Spider-Man, but he didn't dare to touch the boss's woman. He lived under the same roof with Kinlawo during this period. The more he came into contact with him, the more Venom could feel Kinlawo's horror, especially when Kinlawo was practicing. The occasional terrifying aura he exuded, but he didn't know how many times he woke up. He was so scared that he wanted to move out of the apartment with Spider-Man several times, but all of them were rejected by Spider-Man. Venom didn't want to contact Kinlawo, and Spider-Man wanted to get closer. Apart from anything else, just the 1 or 2 moves that Kinlawo had passed down were enough to fill his stomach. Venom had no choice but to fall asleep every day in the torture of fear. Chapter 262 Absolute Differential Treatment. Domineering Hockey. So when Venom saw Maypark, he had already thought about running away. After seeing Maypark's strength, Venom became more determined to run away. Perhaps this is the benefit of Venom's strong mental defense. Although Loki controlled it, he did not have complete control like Hawkeye or Coulson. Venom still has his own ideas, but the object of his loyalty has become Loki. This is why Venom was able to run away when he saw Maypark. If it were Hawkeye or Coulson, they would probably choose to fight to the death. Venom now has only one idea, that is to run. Disobeying Loki's orders does not necessarily mean death, but if he dares to attack Maypark, he will not even have the chance to go to hell. Haha, want to run? Shave. Maypark sneered, then stepped on the ground, and rushed towards Venom at a very fast speed. Spider-Man only felt a gust of wind, and then Maypark disappeared in front of him. Another mastery. Spider-Man sighed secretly, and was not too surprised. After all, Moonstep is an advanced move of Shave. If you don't reach a certain level of Shave, you can't step in the air at all. From Maypark's appearance, it can be seen that her Shave cultivation is definitely not ordinary. But even if he knew it in his heart, watching Maypark's great power, he still hit Spider-Man again. But hitting is hitting. He can't watch Aunt May face the enemy alone. Spider-Man also used Shave. Under the burst of his own power, Spider-Man's shaving speed can barely keep up with Venom. Seeing the aunt and nephew rushing towards him together, "Damn, a group is coming, don't go too far," Venom couldn't help but curse in his heart. At the same time, he flipped his wrist, and 2 dark spider silks attacked the rushing Spider-Man. Feeling the power of the spider silk, which was comparable to that of a bullet, Spider-Man subconsciously wanted to dodge, but May Park stood in front of Spider-Man at this moment. Venom panicked when he saw the spider silk was about to fall on May Park. He wanted to retract his move, but it was too late. It's over. Venom was desperate for a moment, and his spirit and energy dropped to a certain extent. Spider-Man was also panicking now. He really didn't want to see May Park encounter any accidents in order to save him, but even if he desperately chased forward, he could only watch the two spider silks fall on May Park. And May ... Spider-Man's almost shrill roar just sounded, and then something unexpected happened to both Spider-Man and Venom, and the roar was choked back. After the two spider silks fell on May Parker, they slid away strangely, and some shiny thing appeared on May Parker's skin. It looked like a layer of oil. Spider-Man suddenly realized that Venom's rollover just now was probably the work of May Parker. Venom also reacted at this moment. "Little guy, it's time to change your thinking." May Park turned around and looked at Spider-Man with a smile. He waved his hand and jumped towards Venom again. Even though he knew he could ignore Venom's attack, Spider-Man's behavior still warmed May Park's heart. The love for this child was not in vain. Seeing May Park rushing at him again, Venom actually squatted on the ground, pinching his ears with both hands, looking like he was ready to be slaughtered. Just kidding. That almost scared him to death. He didn't dare to resist anymore, but if he wanted to escape, his speed was not as fast as May Park's shaving, so he might as well just give up. May Park walked closer and saw Venom like this. He couldn't help laughing. "You guy, aren't you usually very arrogant? Why do you become like this when you are controlled by others?" May Park poked Venom's forehead with his green onion-like fingers and said. In order to prevent May Park's fingers from scratching, Venom didn't even dare to use hardening, so May Park's fingers went down, directly poked several deep pits on Venom's forehead. "No, no, I dare not be arrogant in front of you." Venom shook his head repeatedly and said with a pitiful look, not to mention that Venom looked really ugly and cute. Spider-Man walked over with a speechless face at this time. Seeing Venom's look, he was immediately furious. What the hell? What about his arrogant and domineering look? Why did he become so cowardly when he saw Aunt May? The difference in treatment should not be so obvious. Seeing this, May Park no longer made things difficult for Venom. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217. So Spider-Man has always been very concerned about Daredevil being blind. Originally, Spider-Man couldn't help much, but when Kinlaw gave Spider-Man the three-color domineering, Spider-Man found that the observation domineering was not only suitable for himself, but also for Daredevil, a disabled but strong-willed superhero. So he secretly taught him the observation domineering. Daredevil didn't want to learn it at first. After all, his teacher was the Stick Man, so he still had some concerns. He knew that stealing skills in Longo was absolutely a taboo. Maybe it would directly implicate Spider-Man. In order to dispel Daredevil's doubts, Spider-Man found Kinlaw that day and told him about it directly. Kinlaw said that it didn't matter at all. He is not a martial artist, so why would he care about this? And Daredevil is not an outsider, and he also has a place in the hero community. Spider-Man is willing to teach, so let him teach. The observation domineering is taught to Spider-Man, and it is his own business to do what he wants. However, Kinlaw still warned Spider-Man that if he bothered him again because of this little thing, the exercises would be doubled. Spider-Man was naturally overjoyed to get Kinlaw's accurate answer. He even ignored the threat of doubling the exercises and hurried back to tell Daredevil the good news. With Kinlaw's approval, Daredevil was able to learn the observation haki with peace of mind. It must be said that Daredevil's talent is still good, and blindness, to a certain extent, has a special advantage in practicing observation haki. This also led to Daredevil getting started earlier than Spider-Man and reaching a proficient level in a short period of time. After reaching a proficient level, he can easily perceive the dynamics around him, which is a bit similar to the situation when Kinlaw just got the wave perception. It's just that his perception is relatively dull, But this is also a rare breakthrough for Daredevil. Originally, Daredevil and Hawkeye were 4-6, but with the blessing of observation Haki, now the ratio between him and Hawkeye has directly risen to 7-3. This is when Hawkeye changed his equipment to eye. Otherwise the winning rate would be even higher. With the blessing of his observation Haki and his own fighting ability, Daredevil kept chasing Hawkeye and attacking him. He was suppressing the attack the whole time. With the support of Daredevil and without the hindrance of Hawkeye, Tony was much more relaxed now. Although Loki was still as hard to catch as a loach, but with the help of Jarvis's induction and some new weapons, he fought back and forth with Loki. However, Tony had an absolute advantage in one aspect. That was the problem of the battle suit. Loki almost used his body to resist the attacks. Tony had 2 layers of protection, the shield and the battle suit. Except for the high energy consumption, Tony had not suffered any injuries so far. On the other hand, Loki now looked like a disciple of the Beggar sect. Not only was his hair disheveled, but the luxurious green robe on his body had turned into a mop, and was covered with dirt and stains. There were many scratches on his face and arms. It's not very harmful, but it's extremely insulting. Loki kept cursing in his heart, and at the same time used the power of the Mind Stone to urge Coulson and Dr. Selvig, who were working not far away, to finish the equipment quickly. Loki didn't forget what he really relied on, so after getting the iridium element, he immediately asked Coulson and Dr. Selvig to prepare to open the space door. And he was here to create a riot to attract the target of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the extraordinary heroes, and by the way control some powerful humans for his use. Originally, Loki was still full of confidence, thinking that he could easily deal with these Earth natives with the infinite gems. As long as Kinlo didn't come, it would be no big deal. But who would have thought that Kinlo didn't come, but Tony and Spider-Man came? Loki underestimated their strength and overestimated himself. Now the third-person Daredevil has appeared. If someone with extraordinary power comes later, Loki seriously doubted whether he could still hold on, so he had to urge Dr. Selvig to complete the space door as soon as possible. At this time, on a tall building somewhere, Coulson and a group of security guards surrounded Dr. Selvig, always on guard. Dr. Selvig was constantly operating something in front of an instrument. As the blue light gradually lit up, the instrument gradually activated. At this moment, the large space gate is about to open. Chapter 261 May Parker appears. Venom panics. All data have been adjusted. As long as the Master brings back the Cosmic Cube, the space portal can be activated. Dr. Selvig hit the space bar heavily. The whole person was relieved. Just now, Loki's signal urging them came, and almost burned Dr. Selvig's CPU. Fortunately, everything went better than he thought. Okay, I'll notify Hawkeye immediately, and the rest will all scatter and be alert to the minions of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coulson picked up the headset, first notified Hawkeye, and then led a group of security guards to leave the scene. Because of his understanding of S.H.I.E.L.D., Coulson quickly found some S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel nearby, easily solved them all. On Spider-Man's side, Venom rushed out of the building, and his huge mouth was full of dirt and stones. Asshole, where did you learn this weird trick from? How many things have you hidden from me? Venom looked at Spider-Man, his huge headlight eyes almost spitting fire. Spider-Man was also confused by Venom's questioning. He really didn't know what happened, although his observation Hawkeye and Spider Sense made him vaguely aware that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell exactly what was wrong. Didn't you just slide out by yourself? Spider-Man looked at Venom and asked tentatively. Asshole, who do you think I am? Can I slide out by myself? I don't look that short. I'm someone who would make low-level mistakes. Do you think I'm you? hts://www.vts.net/venom was furious when he heard this, and he sprayed soil and stones and other materials at Spider-Man. Bang, bang, bang. Spider-Man dodged quickly. The power of those soil blocks was no less than that of the ancient catapults at this time. It was very powerful. Seeing the embarrassed look of Spider-Man, Venom's anger eased a little. At the same time, he began to think about the sudden slipping feeling just now. Based on his understanding of Spider-Man, if it was really Spider-Man who did it, then he would definitely admit it on the spot. and would not pretend to be innocent to deceive himself. Could it be that he really slipped? The moment Venom had this thought in his mind, he shook his head decisively. Impossible. He would never make such a mistake. It must be that someone just intervened. Who is it? Get out. What kind of ability is it to hide your head and tail? Venom roared, and at the same time looked around for suspicious positions. Seeing this, Spider-Man could not help but observe the surroundings with his observation hockey, but he found nothing. Venom, are you talking to me? However, at this moment, a gentle female voice came from above the two of them. Spider-Man and Venom raised their heads almost at the same time. I saw Maypark stepping on the moon step, gracefully descending from the sky, with that gentle smile on his face, but his eyes were narrowed. At this moment, although Maypark was smiling, it always made people feel creepy. It was quite similar to what Sisterhood and Death meant. Spider-Man and Venom shuddered almost at the same time. Spider-Man widened his eyes and opened his mouth in disbelief, with his mask a little deformed. Aunt May ... Aunt May, how ... can you ... moonwalk? Spider-Man stuttered as he looked at May Parker, who landed beside him. Seeing Spider-Man's look, May Parker's smile rose a little. This was the effect he wanted. Chapter 218. Of course, the little spider would not be caught by Venom's moves. The little spider moved his feet, and then his speed soared. He appeared in front of Venom almost instantly, and punched Venom's head fiercely. Seeing this, Venom immediately tilted his head and barely avoided the little spider's fist. But at this moment, the little spider slightly turned sideways and hit Venom's teeth with his elbow. Bang! Venom was directly smashed out, and 7 or 8 teeth flew in the air. Seeing this, the little spider immediately stepped forward and grabbed Venom's feet. Just when he was about to hit him hard again, suddenly, Venom's feet turned into liquid and wrapped around the little spider's arm. You know, Venom is not his own person now. How can the little spider let him possess him? What if the little spider is not safe? Just when Venom was about to wrap around the little spider's arm, suddenly, it felt that the little spider's arm became extremely hard and could not be integrated into his body through the arm. Damn it, armament hockey. Venom realized that Spider-Man had used the power of armament hockey and immediately retracted his foot that had turned into liquid. Spider-Man threw another punch at him, and his fist with armament hockey was more powerful than a normal fist. Venom was blown away without any surprise and hit hard on a truck, his whole body deformed. Spider-Man did not hold back with this punch, and Venom grimaced in pain, but fortunately Venom had strong physical resistance, so such damage was only painful to him and not fatal. If it were someone else, he would probably be smashed to pieces by a punch. Peter, don't be so proud. Let me show you my strength. Venom gritted his teeth and growled, then put his palm on the truck. Then Venom's figure began to change rapidly, almost in the blink of an eye. It turned into a truck-like appearance, but it was much more exaggerated than a truck. The appearance has undergone earth-shaking changes. The head has become Venom's standard hideous appearance, and there are countless spikes and blades on his body. At first glance, it looked like an ankylosaur that had mutated. Walter? Spider-Man was really surprised. Venom had never told him that he had such an ability. When could he turn into a truck? Was he possessed by Optimus Prime? Hey, get ready to be crushed by the truck. Venom laughed strangely, and the big mouth on the truck head opened and closed. Then the truck's spiked tires began to rub against the ground violently. Buzz. With a buzzing sound, the Venom truck crushed towards Spider-Man at a high speed. The sharp spikes cut and destroyed everything around the Venom truck. The destructive power was quite amazing. How could Spider-Man resist it? He quickly rolled over to avoid the impact of the truck. Bang! With a loud bang, the truck hit the wall of the building, smashing it to pieces in an instant. Then there was a roar again in the building, and the Venom truck charged towards Spider-Man again. Faced with Venom in this state, Spider-Man could only passively dodge. After dodging several times in a row, Spider-Man seized the opportunity and jumped onto the roof of the truck. He punched down. As a result, the spikes on Venom's body suddenly jumped out like a hedgehog. Feeling the danger coming, Spider-Man turned over and jumped out of the car when the Venom spikes were about to pierce him. The crisis was resolved. For a moment, no one could do anything to anyone, and they were stuck in a stalemate. Tony was not much better. With the help of the cosmic cube, Loki was as slippery as a loach. He almost caught him several times, but he let him escape. Tony also tried to attack Hawkeye, but every attack was resolved by Loki, who suddenly appeared. Tony had no energy to use, and his mentality was a little exploded. The energy also began to decrease rapidly. However, just when Hawkeye was about to continue to draw his bow to harass Tony, suddenly, he felt a gust of wind behind his head. Hawkeye didn't think about it, and turned around and shot the energy arrow behind him. It was a pity that his attack was still a step slow, and a short stick hit his head like a wolf's tooth. Hawkeye quickly tilted his head and barely dodged the blow, but he was still hit hard on the shoulder. Bang! With a muffled sound, Hawkeye felt a sharp pain in his shoulder, and then his palm loosened and the longbow fell to the ground. At this time, another short stick hit Hawkeye, but Hawkeye's reaction this time was quite fast. Hawkeye barely caught the longbow with his left hand and blocked the blow. When he saw who attacked him, Hawkeye frowned. Daredevil. At the same time, on Spider-Man's side, the Venom truck that was rushing towards Spider-Man suddenly skidded, and then the whole car overturned and hit the building heavily. Chapter 260 Hawkeye without high pressure. The space gate is about to open, Walter. Spider-Man looked at Venom, who suddenly slipped out, his face full of question marks, and he didn't understand what happened. With Venom's fighting power, he shouldn't make such a low-level mistake. Just as Spider-Man was puzzled, Hawkeye and Tony's side became more and more lively. Daredevil's two short sticks were swinging vigorously. Hawkeye was almost out of breath, especially the shoulder that was just hit by Daredevil's short stick was swollen, which had a profound impact on him. Hawkeye was not unfamiliar with Daredevil, to be precise. As long as he had something to do with Kinluo, S.H.I.E.L.D. had spent a lot of money and energy to find out the news. Hawkeye knew that Daredevil was a blind man, and he was good at stick fighting. In addition to his eyes, his other senses were extremely sensitive, far more than ordinary people. But what you learn from books is shallow. Hawkeye has never experienced Daredevil's sharpness in person, so he naturally cannot really understand Daredevil's strength. Moreover, in Hawkeye's view, a defect is a defect. Even if there are other organs to make up for this defect, it is still a weakness. In addition, Daredevil is almost a small transparent character in Kinluo's team, so Hawkeye hardly takes him seriously. He believes that once there is a conflict, he will be able to solve this so-called Daredevil in the first time. However, after a short confrontation, Hawkeye was dumbfounded. "You call this a blind man? Silent arrows, all kinds of arrows, all can be easily dodged, or defended in advance. No matter how he dodges, the opponent seems to predict and hits him accurately at the position where he dodges. Playing dirty tricks and setting traps are also useless." Hawkeye now seriously doubts whether the other party is really a blind man. Is he pretending? Are there such blind people? At the same time, Hawkeye also began to doubt himself. Are his eyes really that useful? And is he really worthy of the name Hawkeye? In fact, Hawkeye can be considered unlucky. If it was the original strength of Daredevil, he would definitely not be as difficult as it is now. But recently Daredevil's strength has had a qualitative breakthrough. The reason lies in Spider-Man. After the last battle, Spider-Man and Daredevil have been getting along very well. They are in a situation where they are not brothers, but more than friends. Chapter 219. Even though he was equipped with a new arc reactor, facing such intense consumption, he couldn't help but feel a little overwhelmed. Tony flipped his palm and a gold and silver coin appeared in his hand. Looking at the coin, Tony gritted his teeth and took it back. It's not the critical moment yet. There's no need to use this thing. Suddenly Hawkeye appeared behind Tony without knowing when. The explosive arrow was put on the longbow again, ready to give Tony a fierce shot. However, Hawkeye's whereabouts had long been transmitted by Jarvis on the screen in front of Tony. Just when Hawkeye was about to shoot the arrow, the armor behind Tony suddenly changed, and then a gun muzzle appeared behind him. An energy cannon blasted directly at Hawkeye. Feeling the crisis of life and death, Hawkeye immediately fired an arrow. Boom! The explosive arrow collided with the energy cannon and immediately burst into a ball of fire. The power of the explosion was not small. Hawkeye flew backwards directly, and Tony relied on the impact force to punch Loki in the face. At this time, Loki held the upper half of the Mind Scepter in his left hand and the Cosmic Cube in his right hand. With a flash of his figure, the energy of the Cosmic Cube was activated and instantly appeared above Tony. At the same time, an energy beam burst out and hit Tony's back. Fortunately, after Tony's attack missed, he reacted very quickly and directly turned on the thrusters with all his strength. This was considered to be a narrow escape from Loki's attack. Otherwise, the energy that was originally not much would be even worse. The people of S.H.I.E.L.D. hiding in the dark, seeing Tony in a bitter battle, their expressions were different. Dr. Banner looked at the boiled egg head beside him and wanted to say something, but he couldn't say it, just sighed helplessly and shook his head. The captain spoke at this time. He looked at the boiled egg and asked, "Nick, why don't you act? Those ordinary people have been killed and injured. If this continues, the casualties will only be greater." Black Widow heard the captain's words and looked at him, then lowered her eyes slightly, like an old monk in meditation, looking at the nose and the heart. She had witnessed too many things like this, and she knew what Lu Dan was thinking at the moment. "Captain, you have to understand the importance of this operation. Now is not the best time to act. Everything should be done according to the original plan." Nick Fury looked at the captain and said seriously, "Then when is the best time? Do we have to wait until everyone is dead?" "Soldier, follow orders." Before the captain finished speaking, Nick Fury interrupted him immediately, staring at the captain with one eye, and his eyes were even a little cold. The captain clenched his fists instantly and turned around to look at Tony and Spider-Man, who were still fighting on the screen. Some things are engraved in his bones. He just woke up and couldn't resist such words at all. But he had made up his mind secretly. Once Tony was in danger, he would take action immediately and would not care about any bullshit orders. The captain wanted to save Tony naturally for his own selfish reasons. What Kinlawo said was lingering in his mind all the time. Peggy's youthful and old age were deeply engraved in his heart, and he couldn't let it go at all. Nick Fury's eyes sank slightly, looking at the captain's fist. A complex light flashed in his one eye, and then it became cold. He certainly would not watch Tony die. He would definitely take action at the critical moment. As for the others, it is not a good thing for SHIELD or even the world if the power of an individual is too strong and cannot be controlled. Some things may be better done by others. Spider-Man. After the spider silk broke, Spider-Man reacted quickly. He did not use ordinary spider silk to entangle Venom. Instead, he released lightning spider silk. Spider-Man knew Venom's weakness very well. If there was any spider silk that was most useful to Venom at present, it must be lightning spider silk. Seeing the changes in Spider-Man's spider silk launcher, Venom naturally knew what Spider-Man was going to do. He smiled coldly, his fingers moved slightly, and a strand of black silk appeared on Spider-Man's wrist at some point. At this moment, Spider-Man felt something was wrong. He grabbed the spider web launcher with both hands at the same time and threw it aside after it was removed from his wrist. Ziz. Bang. That was the moment when Spider-Man threw out the web launcher. With the sound of electric current and explosion, the web launcher was directly scrapped on the spot and shattered into a pile of slag. In the firelight, you can see that a few obvious black threads turned into ashes. Damn. When Spider-Man looked at the destruction of the web launcher and felt a chill in his heart. At the same time, he looked at his lower body. If that thing ... hiss. Hee. Don't think too much, Spider-Man. I left in a hurry and only had time to destroy your web launcher. I didn't have time to leave anything on your body. But I can leave something for you now. Venom smiled evilly, stabbed his hands into the ground, and arched his back. Then he rushed towards Spider-Man like a rubber band. The speed was so fast that even Spider-Man could hardly see it clearly. Fortunately, with the help of spider reaction and the introduction to observation color, Spider-Man accurately predicted Venom's attack route. With a backflip, he avoided Venom's impact. But just as he jumped into the air, Venom swung his hand. His arm instantly extended and whipped towards Spider-Man like a whip. Spider-Man, who was in midair, felt Venom's attack and exerted force on his waist without any hesitation. Then he did a roundhouse kick in the air, followed by a wind blade that was almost invisible, which kicked out from Spider-Man's toe. Venom's arm fell to the ground. Chapter 259, Venom, Pillar of Heaven? stuck in a stalemate. One of Venom's special features is that he can read the host's memory. He even knows the deepest secrets in Spider-Man's heart. Not to mention the Navy 6 styles and 3-color hockey. However, what Venom didn't expect was that Spider-Man had only mastered the shaving and the immature moon step before. He knew about paper painting, iron blocks, storm kicks and finger guns, but he couldn't use them at all. The armament hockey of 3-color hockey barely reached the level of proficiency, and the observation hockey had just started. The Overlord hockey didn't even have a door, let alone a window. But now Spider-Man actually used the storm kick. Although it was just an immature storm kick, he still used it, and he cracked his killer move. You know, when he was in Spider-Man's body, he had imagined a day when he would be an enemy of Spider-Man, so he had practiced this move in his heart for a long time. He thought it was foolproof, but who would have thought that such an accident would happen? If it weren't for the storm kick, even if Spider-Man didn't die, he would have been seriously injured. Venom could have completely controlled him. Damn it, when did you learn the storm kick? Why didn't I know it? Venom gritted his teeth and glared at Peter, his eyes almost popping out. This morning, I suddenly felt that I could use it, but I haven't used it yet. Spider-Man patted his chest and said with lingering fear. Damn Peter. Spider-Man, don't you think about it after learning a new move? Venom cursed, stretched out his hand and waved it, and the severed arm on the ground instantly returned to his hand. Then 10 fingers turned into long whips and surrounded Spider-Man. The long whip gradually stretched in the air and eventually turned into the shape of a spider web. Chapter 220. Naturally, part of his ability was copied by Venom, but logically speaking, Venom's mental defense should be extremely strong. It shouldn't be easily controlled. In fact, Tony was right. Venom's mental defense is indeed very powerful. Even the power of Johnny's Eye of Judgment can resist 90% of its power. The Eye of Judgment can't kill Venom, not to mention the Mind Gem. Kinlawo has tested this matter, and almost everyone knows it. It is precisely because of this that Kinlawo did not release the imprint protection for Venom. Although the power of the Mind Gem is very strong, it depends on who controls it. If it is Thanos, then Kinlawo might provide all-round protection for Venom and others. However, this time it was only Loki who came. Kinlawo didn't believe that the infinite gems in Loki's hands could match the power of Johnny's Eye of Judgment. If that were the case, Loki would not have been beaten into that state by the first generation of Avengers. After all, it is still quite exhausting to imprint the mental power of everyone. Kinlawo didn't want to consume him in the upcoming war, so he saved it if he could. It's a pity that Kinlawo overlooked one thing, that is, the collision between the Mind Gem and the imprint he left. The impact caused by the two spiritual powers was too great. Venom was in Spider-Man's body, and it was also the closest to the explosion. This explosion was different from the soul attack of the Eye of Judgment. It was a completely different impact of two soul powers, and it came too hard and too fast. Venom couldn't withstand such an attack at all, even though most of the impact was blocked by Spider-Man. But the turbulent power still tore a small hole in Venom's mental defense. This also led to the leakage of the Mind Gem and controlled Venom. In fact, with Venom's mental power, it is not difficult to get rid of the control of the Mind Gem. It's just a matter of time. But now Venom must be in a hostile relationship. Brotherkin, I guess you forgot about Venom. After all, he has been in my body. Looking at the Venom who kept smiling evilly at him, Spider-Man felt very uncomfortable. After he and Venom put aside their past grudges, they got along well. Even though they usually quarrel or complain about each other, Venom will really help Spider-Man if he is in trouble. This can be seen from the amount of homework he has helped Spider-Man with. In the blink of an eye, his close friend has become an enemy. Spider-Man hates this feeling very much. He is even more disgusted with the Mind Scepter in Loki's hand. It's not that I forgot. Forget it. Anyway, get ready to do it. Venom has become an enemy now. Tony looked at Loki and the other two who were ready to make a move. His expression was extremely serious. If it was just Loki and Hawkeye, he would definitely be sure to deal with them. But now that Venom has added a variable, the variables are too big. It will be fun to let you kill each other. Ha ha ha. Loki looked at Venom and Spider-Man, and a wicked smile appeared on his face. Then he pointed the Mind Scepter in his hand at Spider-Man. You, Kill him. Yes, master. Venom licked his fangs with his big tongue, and looked at Spider-Man with pale huge eyes, his eyes full of murderous light. Damn it. Seeing this, Spider-Man raised his hand and shot a spider silk, heading straight for Venom, ready to control it. Unfortunately, Venom had been familiar with Spider-Man's routines during the time he followed him. So at the moment when Spider-Man made his move, Venom also shot two spider silks, one white and one black, which collided in the air. They immediately stuck together. The two of them exerted force at the same time, like a tug of war, and the spider silk instantly stretched straight. Unfortunately, Spider-Man's artificial spider silk was a little less tough than Venom's self-produced spider silk. Soon the white spider silk showed signs of cracking. Seeing this, Hawkeye raised his longbow and shot an arrow. Unfortunately, it was blocked in time by Tony's palm cannon. Tony's eyes never left Hawkeye and Loki. Seeing that Hawkeye and Loki were about to start attacking, the thrusters behind Tony suddenly started, and then the protective shield instantly expanded, rushing directly towards Loki and Hawkeye. Hawkeye and Loki obviously didn't expect Tony to be so reckless when fighting 1 against 2. Without checking, he was directly knocked out by the protective shield. However, both of them protected their vital parts in time, so they were not injured. Hawkeye stood up and shot a few more arrows, but Tony didn't even look at him. The arc pulse cannons gathered quickly, and the blue arc light bombarded Loki. Loki immediately raised the Mind Scepter to launch an energy attack. Boom! The collision of the two immediately produced a violent explosion, which directly blasted a bottomless pit on the ground. Loki disappeared in the pit and disappeared. In the previous bombardment, Tony's arc pulse cannon was obviously better. However, he was affected by the power of the explosion. Tony retreated more than 10 meters. A crack appeared on the protective shield. Seeing this, Hawkeye immediately took out an explosive arrow and put it on the longbow. Whoosh! Boom! The power of the cosmic cube, combined with the already powerful explosive arrows, directly blasted a hole in Tony's shield. At the same time, Tony was repelled again. Fortunately, Tony's shield was repaired very quickly, and before Hawkeye's second attack came, the shield had been repaired. However, at this moment, Loki appeared in front of Tony. At this time, Loki had some slightly charred marks on his body. Although he just lost the battle, Loki used the power of the cosmic cube to teleport and dodge most of the explosion. It was just affected a little. Ding! The spear-like Mind Scepter fell on Tony's arc reactor, and immediately made a sound of metal collision. And the power of controlling the mind that was emitted was also blocked by Kinlawo's engraving power. Fuck! Seeing this, Loki couldn't help but feel annoyed, and cursed, thinking of firing a shot at Tony at close range. But Tony took the lead, but with the lesson of Spider-Man, he did not touch the Mind Stone. Instead, he fired a palm cannon at the broken part of the Mind Staff. At the same time, he blasted Loki away. Crack! The Mind Staff was almost cut off by Kinlawo's sword intent, and now it was hit by Tony's cannon, and it was directly broken into 2 sections. Chapter 258. Keep your troops still. Venom vs. Spider-Man. The Mind Staff flew into the sky. It fell heavily to the ground. Tony frowned when he saw this. Originally, he thought that this would destroy the damn scepter. As a result, through Jarvis's detection, it was found that the energy emitted from the scepter did not change at all. Damn it, the gem is the key. Tony raised his hand, opened the arc pulse cannon, and tried to destroy the Mind Stone. However, at this moment, Loki instantly appeared in front of the half-broken Mind Staff, raised the scepter and blasted out a beam of light. Although Tony had been prepared, the teleportation of the cosmic cube was still too sudden. Tony was directly blasted away. It hit the signal light hard, creating a shower of sparks. Fortunately, the shield still had energy, so Tony was not hurt. It was just that the energy was consumed too quickly. Chapter 221. The cosmic energy gathered on the fist exploded, and it didn't explode. It made him very uncomfortable. Gui's expression was a little strange, looking at Ganado with a determined face and Kinlawo with a confused face, and the gloomy face of Devourer of Planets, who opened his arms to block Kinlawo. The plot of hundreds of episodes of TV series appeared in Gui's mind in an instant. Inexplicably, She felt like there was something to eat. The atmosphere became extremely solidified, and it could even be said to be a little awkward. However, the tense atmosphere was indeed reduced a lot. Guyi was secretly relieved in his heart. Man's plans are not as good as God's plans. Who could have thought that Ganata would suddenly stand up at this time? Sure enough, Kinlawo's existence is a big variable. However, at this moment, the golden light shone, and Odin, holding the eternal spear, appeared in the middle of the three. As soon as he appeared, Odin noticed that the atmosphere was a little wrong. A surprised light flashed in his one eye, and he had an inexplicable bad premonition in his heart. The timing of his appearance seemed a little wrong. Odin thought he was not here at the right time, but Ganata thought he was here at the right time. To be honest, facing her father head-on, she felt very weak. She still had offered Devourer of Planets, but it was great that Odin was here, as it would just divert his father's attention. Father, that's him. He was about to attack Uncle Yin. If I hadn't informed you in time, Uncle Yin would have been in danger. Ganata pointed at Odin in front of him, his tone full of deliberate anger. Sure enough, upon hearing this, Devourer of Planets instantly locked his eyes on Odin. The momentum that had just been brewing pressed towards Odin without reservation. If it were a few hundred years ago, when Odin had not aged to this point, he could still withstand the pressure from the gods. But now it's no longer possible, as his body is too old. In an instant, Odin's cold sweat flowed down his forehead. Odin, is what Ganata said true? Galactus looked at Odin, his eyes filled with anger. In fact, this matter is a complete misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Then I will kill you now. Is it also a misunderstanding? Galactus interrupted Odin and asked loudly. Odin was speechless for a while, and began to think about how to deal with this situation. Cold sweat kept sliding down from his head. After noticing the compassionate eyes of Ancient One, Odin suddenly realized that it seemed that he appeared at the wrong time. But before Odin thought about it, Galactus suddenly made a move. Galactus flashed and appeared in front of Odin in an instant. He punched out and directly blasted Odin 100 meters away. Puff! Odin's body was shining with golden light, and he barely stabilized his body. Then he suddenly spurted out a mouthful of old blood, and his face became very pale, like a piece of white paper. At the same time, somewhere sealed, the goddess of death Hela suddenly raised her head. The aura of death surrounded her body, and her hair was like a blade. She attacked the chains around her frantically. Just at that moment, she noticed that Odin's life fire had fluctuated. The seal also fluctuated at this moment. Unfortunately, the fluctuation was over in just a moment. The power that Hela had just burst out was suppressed again in an instant. The sealed land returned to peace again. For such a situation, Hela was not angry, but laughed nervously. Ha ha ha. Odin, you are about to die. You are about to die. How long can your life fire last? Wait, I will be out soon. Asgard is about to usher in the coming of death. Ha ha ha. The laughter resounded throughout the sealed land for a long time. If someone heard Hela's laughter now, I am afraid that if they were not scared to pee their pants, they would not be able to sleep for several days. After Odin stabilized his body, Kinlawo frowned when he saw this. After all, Odin is now considered to be on his side, and he also stole someone else's destroyer, so he had to show his appreciation. https://w.tvts.net/ raised his hand, a stream of blood and chi flowed out, and the pure vitality directly helped Odin heal his body injuries. It was also because of Kinlawo's help that Odin stabilized the seal in time. Human, what do you mean by this? Seeing this, the Devourer of Planets frowned and looked at Kinlawo, with a rather unfriendly tone. It doesn't mean anything. As a person in the same camp, what's wrong with me helping Odin heal his injuries? Kinlawo shrugged his shoulders and said as if it was a matter of course. Then you are going to go against me? The Devourer of Planets said, and the cosmic energy in his hand slowly raised, and it began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon it became as big as the earth. Seeing this, Ganata rushed up in one step, opened her little mouth, and began to suck the ball of cosmic energy fiercely. It took less than 2 or 3 seconds to suck all the cosmic energy into her stomach. In an instant, Ganata's figure began to grow. From the previous girl's appearance, directly into a queen, and the figure is the same, but there is no change in appearance. It's completely a child's face. Even Kinlawo couldn't help but be amazed when he saw such a scene. Planet Devourer did not stop his daughter's actions, nor did he make any more movements. At this time, his eyes calmed down, just looking at Ganada quietly, as if saying, "I'm waiting for your explanation." Seeing his father like this, Ganada immediately lowered his head, twisted his hands together, hesitated for a long time before he came to the side of the Planet Devourer and put his hand on his hand. The energy of the universe fluctuated slightly. In an instant, the look of the Planet Devourer changed, and Ganada blushed and lowered her head. The look in her eyes looking at Kinlawo was full of weird eyes. That look made Kinlawo feel very uncomfortable. It was even more unacceptable to him than the murderous look of the Planet Devourer before. Inexplicably, there was a feeling of a father-in-law looking at his son-in-law. Guyi nodded in sudden enlightenment. She now possesses a part of the cosmic energy, so she also understands the communication between the father and daughter of the Devourer of Planets. She looked at Kinlawo with a little more admiration. Sure enough, excellent people are so eye-catching wherever they go. Chapter 257 Accidentally Accused, Scepter Broken. Damn, this is troublesome. https://w.v''s.net/Tony looked at Venom, who was 70% similar to Spider-Man but had a hideous face. His heart couldn't help but feel a little heavy. Through communication with Kinlawo, he knew some of Venom's special abilities. For example, the ability to clone. Spider-Man is Venom's host. Chapter 222. However, Kinlawo always felt that Minkying was too low level. With the flying dragon cloud hand, why do that? Just find an opportunity to get it directly. As a result, Odin not only did not realize that he was tricked by him, but was also very moved. Kinlawo really didn't expect this. However, others didn't notice it. It doesn't mean that Ancient One and Devourer of Planets didn't notice it. After all, they have been watching the situation here. One of these two is Devourer of Planets, one of the 5 great gods, who contains endless cosmic energy. The other is the Supreme Sorcerer, the Faith of Kamartaj, and the Ancient One who has achieved a new breakthrough. The Flying Dragon Cloud Hand can be said to be a magical skill in front of Ganada's level. But in front of these two, it is still not enough. Although it only took a moment, the Wine Fairy gourd was blasted into slag. But at this moment, they all saw it. Devourer of Planets didn't understand why Kinlawo did this. Did he come to block his attack just for Odin's toy? No matter how he looked at it, he felt a little incomprehensible. On the contrary, Ancient One showed a somewhat relieved expression. She was not surprised by Kinlawo's coquettish operation, and even felt that it was reasonable. Otherwise, it would be too scary. Think about Kinlawo shouting fearless slogans and doing fearless things every day. That scene is really terrible. Chapter 255 Gods are so chicken. Uncle Yin's advice: wait until the terrifying cosmic energy dissipates. Ganada's face flushed slightly. The feeling of hunger also dissipated a lot. Her father's power is still very nourishing to her. It's just that the taste is a little worse, but it can't be said to be bad. It's like eating white rice with an empty mouth. Even if it has a strong sense of fullness, you can't eat white rice dry. I always feel a little disgusted when I eat it all year round. The Silver Surfer also recovered a little with the help of the power of the Planet Devourer. At least it's not in that half-dead state. Miss, long time no see. He barely stood up, bowed slightly to Ganada beside him, and knelt on one knee to Galactus and said, "I'm sorry, Master. I failed to complete your task. I am not the opponent of this human." Galactus waved his hand indifferently. Then he set his eyes on Kinlawo, and an unknown color flashed in his eyes. I don't know what he is thinking. Kinlawo was a little uncomfortable being stared at by Galactus. He frowned and looked at Galactus and said, "Mephisto and Dormammu are finished, and your daughter is here. What do you want now?" Kinlawo also shook the remaining will of Mephisto trapped by the soul-sealing technique in front of Galactus. "Earth, I cannot devour it, but you have to come with me." Galactus looked at Kinlawo and said seriously. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the people present, except for the Silver Surfer, changed slightly. Ancient One's brows were almost locked, and she could probably guess the purpose of Galactus, but she didn't think that Galactus' choice was a good choice. Ganada's expression was indescribably complicated. She didn't want her father to take Kinluo away, but she was also looking forward to it. If Kinluo could be with her father, she would be very happy to return to her father's side. Then everything would be possible. Haha, don't think too much, Planet Devourer. Others are afraid of you, but I am not. If you have the ability, just take me away and try. Kinluo sneered, and the power around him burst out instantly. The violent power shook the surrounding space slightly. As long as Kinluo wanted, he could break the space with a swing of his sword. He wanted to see how big the gap between himself and the gods was in normal state. TVB Novel Network. At worst, there is still the law of heaven and earth. The law of heaven and earth opened. The gods retreated. Seeing the tense atmosphere, Ancient One stood up and said to Devourer, "Devourer, I think there are other solutions to this matter. I know what you are thinking, but Kinluo will never be the kind of person you can manipulate, so it is better to talk about some things. Humphrey, just a human. It is his honor for me to take him away. Why should I explain my actions to others?" Devourer snorted coldly, not caring about what Ancient One said. Kinluo laughed even more angrily after hearing this. "Give me back my honor? Honor your uncle, Ancient One. Don't worry about it. Damn, I want to see if this guy can take me away. How chicken-feathered are gods? Are you talking to me? Who gave you the courage?" "Miss Liang gave it to you. What's the matter? Do you have donkey hair in your ears? Can't understand what I say?" Facing Devourer, whose face became more and more gloomy, Kinluo spoke directly without any consideration. Devourer was puzzled. What Miss Liang? A human on Earth? How did he get the courage? Although he didn't quite understand what Kinluo said, he knew it from Kinluo's expression. This was probably not a good thing, probably mocking him. The Devourer of Planets was also angry at this time. He was optimistic about Kinluo's potential. He was ready to train him to be his helper. When they joined forces, they might have a chance to defeat that existence. But now, the Devourer of Planets changed his mind. He wanted to teach Kinluo a lesson. Let him know what the 5 great gods are. Don't think that you can be indifferent just because you have some means. Feeling the gloomy face of the Devourer of Planets and the terrifying power erupting from his body, Guyi felt a headache. What's going on? How come these two people are like incompatible? And they are going to fight after just a few words. It is true that the words of the Devourer of Planets are easy to be misunderstood. But Kinluo's anger is also particularly big today. He is not usually such a powder keg character that can be ignited at any time. Not only was Guyi a little anxious, Ganada also felt a panic. What she least wanted to see was a conflict between Kinluo and the Devourer of Planets. But the most undesirable thing happened right in front of her. Without enough strength, it was impossible for her to stop the impending war. "Uncle Silver, what should I do? I don't want my father to fight with that human." Not knowing what to do, Ganada set his sights on the Silver Surfer. Hearing this, the Silver Surfer was stunned. He didn't understand why Ganada wanted to stop the conflict between the two. But since Ganada asked, he answered seriously, "Don't worry, miss. Although the human is very strong, with the strength of the master, he may not be defeated in a short time, but the final winner will definitely be the master." "Oh, Uncle Silver, that's not what I asked. Can we prevent them from clashing? I want to stop them." Ganada was so anxious that she stomped her feet. She was also convinced by the Silver Surfer's peculiar brain circuit. "Oh, so that's the case. It's unlikely. I don't have the power to get involved in such a battle now, even if I didn't lose my power. So, miss, you want to stop them by force? It's basically impossible." Unless, just when Ganada was disappointed, the words of the Silver Surfer made her instantly alert, and she quickly asked, "Unless what?" "Miss, if you go and plead, maybe the master will stop attacking." "The master will generally agree to your request," the Silver Surfer said with a serious face. As the saying goes, those who are in the know are the most confused. Ganada was anxious for a while and really forgot her role. When she was with her father really responded to her requests, even at the cost of his own strength. The only time he refused her was when she proposed to wander the universe alone. Thinking of this, Ganada didn't dare to delay any longer. After all, they were almost ready to take action. Ganada's figure flashed, and a lavender light flashed around her body and instantly appeared in front of Kinluo. He opened his hands to block Kinluo and shouted, "Father, don't attack this human." Chapter 256. Odin was caught in the crossfire. With strange eyes Kinluo looked at Ganada standing in front of him. He was stunned, with a surprised look on his face. "Why is she so unexpected every time she appears?" "Galactus is your father. You stopped him from attacking the enemy? Isn't it a bit too filial?" Galactus was really filial at this time. His face became even uglier, and he was so gloomy that he almost dripped water. Chapter 223. Kaguya, come and help too. As Kinluo's voice fell, a faint black gas emerged from Kinluo's body. The Kaguya state that was about to be lifted rose again, and the black gas turned into a black shadow surrounding Kinluo's body, forming waves of black light circles. Kaguya plus block. Kinluo almost instantly pulled up the defense. Boom! The violent cosmic energy hit the giant sword, and suddenly a strong wind blew up. The strong wind condensed by the sword will swept the scene, constantly attacking the group of terrifying cosmic energy. However, the sword will strong wind that burst out by blocking is still a little bit less interesting. At most, it can weaken the terrifying cosmic energy, and it can't destroy it at all. At the same time, Kaguya's power also began to absorb the group of cosmic energy. For a while, it fell into a stalemate. However, under the impact of the cosmic energy, Kinluo still began to slowly retreat involuntarily. No one thought that Kinluo would stand up at this time. Odin didn't expect it. In his opinion, it was good enough for Kinluo to stand by and watch. After all, in a sense, his little move was equivalent to pitting Kinluo. For a moment, Odin felt mixed emotions and felt a little ashamed. He felt that he was not a human being. The glory of Asgard was almost lost by himself. The planet devourer rushed out and looked at Kinluo, who blocked his power, and Ganada, who was stunned. https://w.v''s.net/ and the destroyer, who had not yet eliminated the high temperature beam and was facing the Silver Surfer. After a little thought, he probably knew what was going on. At the same time, he was secretly relieved. It was best that the existence did not appear. He really wanted to fight to the death just now. After all, that existence was too terrible. Looking at the sword intent wind that burst out from Kinluo's giant sword, the planet devourer was basically certain that the person who cut off the Silver Surfer and the cosmic surfboard was Kinluo. "I think I still underestimated this human." Even he, a god, couldn't believe that a human could have so much power at the same time. And it seems that he has used all these powers to the extreme. The young are really formidable. The devourer of planets looked at Kinluo with admiration in his eyes. But he had no intention of taking back his power. He wanted to see if Kinluo could really withstand the impact of his own power. Compared with other people, Guyi frowned slightly when looking at Kinluo. There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. Based on her understanding of Kinluo, it is basically impossible to stand up. If the person who is about to face the attack of the Devourer of Planets is May Parker, Kinluo's behavior is still possible. Odin is absolutely impossible. Why is that? Chapter 254. Flying Dragon exploring the clouds, stealing and substituting pillars. What exactly caused Kinluo to do such a fearless act? Is it the distortion of human nature or the decline of morality? Guyi couldn't figure it out. She really couldn't figure it out. Too many things happened in a short period of time. Guyi even felt that her calm state of mind had been broken by many reversals. Odin looked at Kinluo's back through the destroyer. The shock and guilt in his one-eyed eyes became stronger and stronger. No one has stood in front of him for many years. I remember the last time, when my father led me to attack the Dark Hells. My father stood in front of me and took the fatal blow of the King of the Dark Hells. Mr. Kinluo, it's okay. It's just a mere body. You don't have to insist on it. A vigorous and powerful voice came from the destroyer, mixed with complex emotions. Kinluo naturally didn't know that Odin was so dramatic. He didn't know that Odin suddenly missed his father when he looked at his back. The reason why Kinluo chose to come and withstand the attack of the Devourer of Planets, of course, was for his own purpose. Hearing Odin's words, Kinmowo's mouth corners rose slightly. It was still a little unfamiliar to use this ability for the first time, but I finally figured it out, and the time was just right. Okay, Kinmowo said, and his figure flashed and disappeared directly in front of the cosmic energy. And Odin could no longer feel the existence of the destroyer at this moment. Sitting on the throne, Odin's mood at this moment was indescribably complicated. The treasure that he had cherished for a long time was gone. He always felt empty in his heart, and he felt that Kinmowo's promise seemed a little too straightforward. It seemed that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. The current situation was unclear, and the destroyer was dead. Odin knew that he couldn't hide anymore. He had to show up anyway. Otherwise, if Ganata said something weird, and he was not there, he would not even have a chance to explain. He raised the eternal spear in his hand. The golden energy flashed. In an instant, Odin disappeared in the secret room. At this time, Kinmowo looked at the room metal that had turned into dust. There was a look of nostalgia on his face. Speaking of it, this wine gourd is still very useful, but there is a little less room metal, which is easy to deform. But the old does not go, the new does not come. This time the room metal is definitely enough. Kinmowo's mind moved and looked at the remains of the destroyer lying quietly in the inventory with satisfaction. His heart was suddenly filled with pride. That's right, the power of the Devourer of Planets did not destroy the real destroyer, but the Dionysus gourd that Kinmowo had made with the fake destroyer. In fact, Kinmowo had been eyeing the destroyer from the beginning. Otherwise, the sky-breaking sword slash would not have happened to cut the destroyer in half. Unfortunately, the cosmic energy between the Silver Surfer and the surfboard was a bit too strong. It consumed a lot of the power of the sky-breaking sword slash, and only 1/10 of it fell on the destroyer. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as cutting in half. While Kinmowo was studying the cosmic surfboard, he was also thinking about how to get the real destroyer. Originally, he wanted to create an accident and take away the lower body. Anyway, the metal contained in the lower body alone is already far more than the Dionysus gourd several times. As a result, who would have thought that Ganata would suddenly appear and attract the attack of the Devourer of Planets? Kinmowo had an idea instantly. He pretended to stand up and block the destroyer. In fact, he was using the power of the flying dragon exploring the cloud's hand to replace the pillars. Li Dai Tao Zhang, flying dragon exploring the cloud's hand. This method can be used to make the hands empty-handed. The dragon can only be seen from the head but not the tail. The head is connected to the hand, and the cloud represents the invisible place. The dragon's nature is to fly in the clouds and mist. The cloud must be the place that the dragon can know and control. It represents the use of hands to explore the invisible and take away the explored objects. The dragon is in the sky, so this move must be done in person, and the speed is extremely fast. The flying dragon exploring the cloud's hand can be said to be an extremely colorful skill in the world of fairy sword. It was created by the Bashu chivalrous thief Li Haikong, and later passed on to the monkey demon Jingjing. Jingjing accidentally met Jingshan, saved Jingshan, and passed this unique skill to Jingshan when he was dying. Later, Jingshan found Li Haikong's descendants, returned this unique skill, and named Li Zioyao's father Sansi. Finally, it fell into Li Zioyao's hands through the family inheritance. Kinmowo has always been interested in this move, but there is no place to use it, which really makes Kinmowo feel helpless. But today I finally used it, and I was a little nervous when I used it. Fortunately, the process went very smoothly. When Odin asked Kinmowo to leave, Kinmowo had already made preparations. He directly used the flying dragon cloud hand to bring the destroyer into the inventory, and at the same time threw out the wine fairy gourd to meet the attack of the Devourer of Planets. It was a perfect substitution. Even Ganata beside him didn't notice it. She just noticed that Kinmowo disappeared in an instant, and her father's power devoured the destroyer, and replenished her energy by the way. In fact, if Kinmowo wanted the destroyer, he could just drop it. After all, the strength is there. Even Odin can't say anything, let alone have any way. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224, Beelzebub, the Gluttonous Demon King, was almost the worst. His fat body was enough to show his identity, but his stomach was empty. His entire stomach was empty, with only 2 rows of ribs connecting his upper body. It looked like a jack holding up a large truck. If the Gluttonous Demon King was broken in half in the next second, Johnny believed that he would not be surprised at all. In addition, the asymmetrical enchanting Demon King gave Johnny a signal that the Demon King level existences in hell seemed to be lacking something. Old Carter couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard Johnny's words. He wanted to laugh but was also a little curious. What kind of existence could harm the 7 Demon Kings like this? The strength of that existence must be terrifying. I really didn't expect Asmodeus to have such a good relationship with you. Since you're here, let's fight. But are you ready to face your own death? Old Carter said as a powerful aura burst out from his body. The battle axe and the hell soul devouring cannon in his hand also burst out with rich underworld flames. Feeling the breath of Old Carter, the faces of the 6 Demon Kings changed almost at the same time. They didn't expect that Old Carter was so strong now, and he was completely different from the old him. If it weren't for the breath of Old Carter, that was enough to show his identity. The 6 Demon Kings even suspected that Old Carter had been replaced. HMPH, little ones, kill these 2 traitors of hell. Whoever can kill them, I will give him the position of Lord. The lazy Demon King Belial snorted coldly, swung his feet lazily and shouted loudly, "There must be brave men under a heavy reward." These demons are naturally no exception. After hearing the words of their boss, the demons under the lazy Demon King all knew that they were injected with chicken blood, and their eyes became red. The other Demon Kings were quite unhappy and made solemn promises. All of a sudden, all the demons became restless. Even though these demons are not the opponents of Johnny and Old Carter, but the breath they gathered together still put a lot of pressure on Johnny and Old Carter. What nonsense! Old Carter roared, and the hell soul devouring cannon in his hand burst into a ball of dark flames, and fiercely bombarded the place where demons were densely concentrated in the sky. Boom. https://www.tvts.net/ accompanied by a loud bang, countless demons disappeared. However, this shot also completely sounded the signal for battle. Countless demons fell from the sky, like a rainstorm. Seeing this, Johnny's flames all burst out, and he grabbed the chain of the Streamer Star meteor knife and waved it wildly. Countless flames gathered into a firestorm, sweeping countless demons into it. Some demons were turned into ashes before they could charge. But the number of demons was still too many. Even if Johnny and Old Carter went all out, there were still demons rushing down. However, at this moment, more than 20 red meteorites flew down from the sky. With a surging momentum, they smashed into those demons. Several of them flew towards the 6 Demon Kings. Feel the terrifying firepower contained in the meteorites. In contrast, the slightly weaker Gluttony Demon King's face suddenly changed, and he said in disbelief, "Is this also the method of the Ghost Rider? Damn it, when did they master such power?" The other Demon Kings nodded when they heard it, but after joining forces, it was still easy to dissolve those meteorites. But they didn't expect that the meteorites would not end at this time. In less than half a minute, the 6 Demon Kings saw the meteor shower composed of at least 300 or 400 meteorites in the sky. It fell down as if it was free. The faces of these Demon Kings changed drastically. When the number reaches a certain level, there will be a qualitative change. The demon army is like this, and the meteor shower is also the same. The 6 Demon Kings looked at each other and decisively chose to avoid it. Just kidding. Even if such a meteor shower can be stopped, the power consumed will definitely not be small. It is definitely a loss-making business to consume one's own power for some indifferent subordinates. Demons will not choose to do this kind of business, let alone Demon Kings. The meteor shower without obstacles directly hit the demons. Suddenly, there were wailing sounds everywhere. Johnny and Old Carter, who were originally in a bitter battle, felt relieved. Chapter 253 Odin is numb. Stand up. In the universe, Kinlawo was also startled when he heard Ganada's voice. Turning around, he he found that a cute girl in armor rushed towards the Silver Surfer. The girl's lavender eyes were flashing with tears, and her long black hair gave people a pitiful feeling. But if someone thinks this girl is a weak type, that's a big mistake. Judging from the power emanating from her, it would be effortless to lift a person's head. Kinlawo can see that the power of the girl and the Devourer of Planets are basically the same. Even in terms of cosmic energy, it is even purer than the Silver Surfer. Kinlawo can basically confirm the identity of this girl at this time, the daughter of the Devourer of Planets, Ganata. It is said that she evolved from a cosmic tapeworm in the stomach of the Devourer of Planets. Or it can be said that a part of the Devourer of Planets has developed an independent consciousness. In short, she is the daughter of Galactus, and the purpose of Galactus coming to Earth. In fact, Kinlawo had sensed a faint malice before, which cannot be called malice, but a gaze of desire, because Dormammu and Mephisto's malice towards him was too strong at that time. So Kinlawo didn't care about this kind of malice that was not even malicious. Now Kinlawo is basically sure that the person who exudes strong desire is Ganata. As for why he has desire for himself, you don't have to think about it. Ganata inherited his father's gluttony problem. Seeing Kinlawo's power that is different from this world is like a superfoodie seeing some new delicacy. It's strange that the desire is not strong. There is actually another reason why Kinlawo didn't find Ganata. That is the existence of Galactus. Ganata hides in the area where Galactus is. It's like hiding a drop of water in the sea. As long as Ganata wants to hide, it's really not an easy thing to find her. Originally, the appearance of Ganata was enough to surprise Kinlawo. However, what he didn't expect was that within 2 seconds, Galactus rushed out of the mirror space with a furious face. Behind him was Ancient One with a solemn face. Damn, this technique of calling dad is really cool. In some ways, Ganata and the little spider in the original plot can be sworn brothers. Kinlawo saw this and his mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but complain. However, compared to Kinlawo, Odin was even more confused. Now he was numb. He never expected that the daughter of Galactus would suddenly appear and block the Silver Surfer. He didn't know what to do with his almost converged high-temperature beam. What's more important is that Galactus came out. In such a scene, is it possible to expect Galactus not to misunderstand? It's really like yellow mud falling into the crotch. It's either la or la. Galactus didn't even have the chance to speak to Odin. He didn't even look at him. The terrifying energy burst out directly from Galactus's hands and bombarded in the direction of Ganata. As for whether such a terrifying energy would hurt Ganata, that is of course impossible. The cosmic energy of Galactus contains not only his own power, but also the power left by Ganata. So when this power falls on Ganata, it will not hurt her. Instead, it will replenish the energy she consumes and heal the fatal injuries she has suffered. Seeing that the terrifying energy is getting closer and closer to the destroyer, Silver Surfer and Ganata, Kinlawo's heart moved slightly. He dodged and blocked the destroyer. The ancient dagger in his hand turned into an ancient giant sword, and the giant sword like a door panel blocked in front of him. Block. Chapter 225. Facts have proved that Kinlawo's worries were not unnecessary. If he really didn't care, who knows what accidents might happen now. If the power of Spider-Man falls into Loki's hands now, it is estimated that when Kinlawo is done, the Earth will be in chaos. Loki is naturally unwilling to fail like this. Since he obtained the Mind Scepter, he has never failed to control people. With the urging of power, the light of the Mind Gem is bright again. Then a blue beam of light shot towards the center of Spider-Man's eyebrows. Tony saw that Spider-Man was in danger and immediately became anxious. The protective shield around him suddenly pushed up and directly shook away the ordinary people who surrounded him. The thrusters started at full power and rushed towards Spider-Man. As for the constant harassment and attacks from Hawkeye behind him, Tony simply used the protective shield to resist it directly. Now is not the time to worry about consuming energy. But Tony's speed is still a little slower. The beam of the Mind Scepter bombarded the engraving suspended at the center of Spider-Man's eyebrows. Buzz. In an instant, the sound of the soul power shocked the whole audience. Whether it was ordinary people or those agents, they could not bear such a soul impact at all, and all of them fainted with their eyes rolled up. There were even a few people whose souls were slightly fragile, and they were ready to start the meal directly. Hawkeye and Tony only felt dizzy at this time, but it was not a big deal, although they were all ordinary people. But Tony had Kinlowo's wave power protection, plus his own talent, and Kinlowo used the power of Kazan to assist him in scientific research many times. The strength of his soul has long exceeded that of ordinary people. At least it is not worse than those magic apprentices on Kamardage. As for Hawkeye, the mind gem controlled him, and it was the kind of single control, which was equivalent to adding a layer of protection to his soul. Only then did he withstand the roar of the collision of soul power. Ordinary people like those who were fully covered and controlled did not have the benefits of Hawkeye, so they would faint or even die after being affected by the soul roar. This was the case for the people on the periphery. Needless to say, the impact on Spider-Man, Venom, and Loki was naturally beyond description. Loki rolled his eyes and fainted. Venom almost died on the spot. Fortunately, Spider-Man helped him block most of the impact. Spider-Man was also in a state of confusion at this time. He seemed to see Kinlowo, but in the blink of an eye, Kinlowo's face turned into Loki's. The face changed back and forth, faster and faster, making him feel very uncomfortable. He even felt like vomiting. However, at this moment, the wave imprint that had become a little dim reappeared. The person in Spider-Man's mind turned back to Kinlowo's appearance, and Kinlowo slowly said, "Peter, wake up quickly." Otherwise, before Kinlowo and his mind finished speaking, Spider-Man suddenly woke up, his eyes regained clarity, and his face was full of lingering fear. "Oh my God!" Fortunately, Brother Kin didn't finish his words, otherwise it would be bad. Spider-Man patted his chest, his face showing clarity. Just when Spider-Man was still in a state of lingering fear, Loki also regained clarity with the help of a mind gem. He opened his eyes, jumped up from the ground, and looked at the little spider in front of him. He couldn't help but feel a little flustered. He really didn't expect that this strange human in front of him could actually resist the power of the Mind Stone. The reason why he dared to come to Earth to make trouble, in addition to the stereotype, was because of the power of the Mind Stone. As a result, the Mind Stone is useless to some people now. It's strange that Loki can remain calm, but soon Loki's panic settled a little, because he thought that he now has more than just the Mind Stone to rely on. The cosmic cube is still in his hands. Just now, because he despised these humans too much, he forgot the power of the cosmic cube. With these two artifacts, no one on Earth can stop him. Even Kinlowo is the same. Tony also recovered at this time, and immediately rushed to the front of the little spider, looked him up and down, and after confirming that the little spider was fine, Tony was relieved. At this time, Hawkeye also stood behind Loki and raised the Rubik's Cube longbow to aim at the little spider. "Bambi, now let's see what tricks you have." Tony said these words almost through gritted teeth. Those who were controlled just now really annoyed Tony, and he was full of anger in his heart. "My tricks only you can't imagine, you humble human." With the confidence of the cosmic cube, Loki once again showed his arrogant look. He swung the mind scepter in his hand violently. Suddenly Loki felt something was wrong, as if he was controlling something strange. He tried to control that power. In an instant, the black substance on Spider-Man's body fell off quickly. Then Venom in the form of Spider-Man jumped beside Loki, showing a mouthful of fangs and smiling. "Master Walter Nima, Pitfall Laukin, how could you forget it?" Seeing such a scene, Spider-Man and Tony almost exclaimed in unison. Chapter 252 Bravely Fighting Against Demons. Meteorites falling from the sky into hell. Old Carter and Johnny both felt that the atmosphere was wrong at this time, and they felt a palpitation. The journey was too peaceful, not to mention the demons. Not even the lowest level brainless scum was seen. This is definitely not the scene that hell should be like. Although Johnny didn't know what hell originally looked like, but the spirit of revenge in his body issued a kind of cautious warning to him at this moment. Old Carter's mind moved, and the warhorse stopped in place. Then the dark purple nether flames in his eye sockets kept beating, feeling the surrounding atmosphere. Suddenly, Old Carter raised his head and shouted loudly to the sky, "6 Demon Kings, why hide your head and show your tail? Since you're here, show up." As Old Carter's voice fell, the nether flames around him suddenly jumped up, forming a pillar of fire that shot up to the sky. In an instant, the space above the sky changed, and then the 6 demon kings led endless demons and devils to float in the sky, staring at old Carter and Johnny with grim eyes, as if looking at some prey that was about to be caught. It's the same as Asmodeus' memory. It's really 2 ghost riders. Greedy Demon King Mammon looked at old Carter and Johnny, his eyes flickering with a bit of disbelief. Normally, ghost riders rarely appear at the same time. After all, there is only one spirit of vengeance. Even if the predecessor can leave some power, it is not enough to support it to come to hell and act recklessly, let alone kill a demon king. Humphrey, no matter if there are 2 or more, they are dead. Arrogant Demon King Lucifer snorted coldly, holding the sword in one hand, and the breath on his body was as cold as ice that has not melted for thousands of years. That's right. Kill them. I will crush their souls bit by bit. The angry Demon King Samael, who was holding his thigh, was full of rage on his face, and he spoke viciously. Johnny looked at these demon kings in the sky. He couldn't help showing a bit of surprise on his face, and the tension at the beginning also disappeared without a trace. It was almost the same reaction as when he met the enchanting Demon King Asmodeus. Old Carter, isn't there something missing that prevents you from becoming a Demon King? Johnny couldn't help but be curious and asked old Carter beside him. It's not surprising that Johnny was curious. The main reason was that these Demon Kings looked too miserable. Missing arms and legs were all basic operations. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.